Aita for going behind my wife's back and telling her pregnant sister that she's being cheated on. I have been married to my wife for 3 years, I am 27 and she's 26, my sil is 30 and my POS bill is 31, I always had a close relationship with my sil, we are friends, also has a decent connection between my bill, not that close but we often talk and get along. My wife and her sister didn't get along as much as you would expect from siblings, it wasn't just normal siblings rivalry but constant fights and arguments. Anyway 3 weeks ago when I was having dinner with my friends, I saw my bill with another woman, they were just eating, I didn't think much of it, I wanted to go and greet him but I kept talking to my friends, after a while I saw that he gave a light kiss to this woman. I was so shocked. I decided to not confront him and when I got back to my home I told my wife everything. I told her that her sister is getting cheated on and we need to tell her. My wife said we should talk to my bill instead of telling her sister and we should not break their marriage because her sister is pregnant. I was like WTF. So what is she's pregnant? Her husband is a cheat. I tried to convince my wife multiple times that we should tell her sister the truth. I told her that I know you guys don't get along but she's still your sister and this isn't right but she asked me to stay out of it. I tried my best to convince my wife but she either ignored me or said we shouldn't break their marriage. I had enough of her and yesterday I told her that I am coming clean to my sil, she and I have a great bond and I can't and won't betray her. My wife said if I tell her the truth she will not talk to me. I replied I won't talk to you either if you don't want to do what's right. Today I told my sil the truth. I went to her place and told her everything. She was doubtful and she asked me to leave. After a few hours my sil called me and she was crying and said what I said was the truth and she shouldn't have doubted me and kicked me. She said she's leaving. I asked her where would you go? Do you have money? She said she does but not that much. I wired her a bit and said she should call me if she needs help and she thanked me and said she will only use the money I send if it's necessary otherwise she will return. My bill called my wife and well my wife lashed onto me and said I ruined her family and her sister's life. I said I thought the moment we got married your family is mine and my family is yours. Anyway YTF are you defending that POS so much? What about your sister? She didn't reply to me and she's not talking to me either. I tried to talk to her and convince her that it was the right thing to do, but she wouldn't talk to me so I said fine stay angry and if you want to divorce me then go ahead. I think I have nuked my marriage, do not know if what I did was truly right. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, sounds like your wife supports cheaters and that should be worrying to you. NTA. Reply, I thought about it and I am concerned about it but I somewhat think she just asked me to not tell her because my sil is pregnant and it will cause her more stress, that's just what I think but the truth is, if I hide it and support my wife I am in the wrong, if I tell her the truth after she gives birth then still I am wrong. If I hide it forever then I am still wrong, like what am I supposed to do? Cover up for the betrayer and not help my family? Even my wife is angry at me and probably will lose her if I already haven't lost her. Commenter 2, NTA, if I were you, I would sleep with one eye open. Your wife has no moral standards. Reply, I truly have been thinking about this, that she might just be. But I love and trust my wife and I was thinking she wanted me to not tell her because my sil is pregnant and women knows how stressful pregnancy and after pregnancy is and she might have thought that she needs support from her husband. Nothing here makes sense to me. There was nothing for me to suspect of her cheating on me. Commenter 3, I'm surprised your wife wouldn't tell her sister. Reply, so am I. What I think is that no matter how strained both sisters' relationship is, at least a sibling would have the back of their sibling especially when they are pregnant but she didn't even try to help her sister and angry at me. I am like WTF. Is this really the woman I got married to? Update 1. It's been a few days since I told my wife's sister that her husband is a cheat. Just to clarify to all the weirdos, no I am not in love with my sil, I don't have any inappropriate relation feelings for her, I respect her and she's family. In any case yesterday I asked my wife why she is pissed and wanted me to not reveal the truth to her sister. I know you guys hate each other but you guys are siblings. My wife said it's not our place to interfere. I asked are you okay with her sister being cheated on? She said she isn't but it will and has ruined their marriage because of my stupidity. She's pregnant and the child needs his father and so does the wife. I was so shocked when she said this, like WTF. I asked her if I were to cheat on you would you forgive me? She said yes. I also asked her if she ever cheats on me would she hide it from me, she also said yes to that. I was so shocked I asked her if she knows what she's saying, she said, yes and she's confident, just because you had sex with someone else doesn't mean everyone else has to suffer and break the family. I had no words to say. I told her that I also sent my sil money. She started screaming at me and said I shouldn't have helped her despite knowing she doesn't like her sister. I said if that's what she thinks then it's better if we just divorce. She got angry and screamed fine and started packing her bag. I tried my best to stop her from leaving. I told her that I love her and I just did what I felt right. Nobody has to suffer betrayal like this. She said it wasn't the right time. I asked her so when should we tell her the truth? After she gives birth? Because it will worsen her PPD or years after she gives birth? She will just blame us. She said we should have just kept quiet and left it alone. I tried so hard to stop her but she didn't listen to me and left. I tried to contact her and her parents. her friends, but they don't know where she is and instead started interrogating me and saying I am her husband and I should have taken care of her and I should know where she is. I even visited my bill to confirm my suspicions, but I didn't see her car or her belongings anywhere. I hate that I am being blamed for just revealing the truth and my wife leaving me right away without a second thought. I was so damn pissed, so today I called my sil and told her that she can stay at my place cause I am going to my parents and my wife left and nobody knows where she is. She told me she will try talking to her parents, but after a while she called me and said that their parents don't know where she is. I told her to think about herself and come over and stay here instead of blowing up her money. Now I am at my parents and my sil is in our home. Maybe I was being petty, but I hate that my wife gave up on me and left without a second thought. I don't know whether she's cheating or cheated or she would truly cheat on me and her own blood sister with a family relative, over feuds. One thing is for sure though, I cannot trust my wife anymore, she hurt me. Relevant comments. OOP should not have gone behind his wife's back to tell his SIL about the affair. Reply, yes I did, I went behind her back, I tried so hard to not to, but she is covering up for a cheater and she wouldn't even spare her own sister. I love my wife and I mean it, but that doesn't mean I will give up on my own morals and my self-worth just to please the woman I love. I consider my wife's family as my own. Why did she try to stop me though? Why am I the bad guy in her eyes? Is it just as easy to say, none of our business and forget about everything else? Commenter 1, I'm sorry op. The way your wife speaks on the subject of cheating is concerning. Especially that she would hide it from you. If I were in your shoes, I won't be able to trust her either. How she doesn't look at cheating on your so as a huge deal breaker is beyond me. Some couples can forgive and move past it, but not all. The baby's father can still in her life. I'm sorry you're hurting and going through this. Hugs. Reply, yeah, I feel like she isn't even the woman I married, she's like a completely different person. Maybe the comments about I married the wrong sister were right, haha. In any case I loved and I still do and will do so for foreseeable future, so I will just back out of relationship and dating scene, and even I don't trust my wife at this point. Commenter 2, NTA. Your wife is a weirdo. I think it's more that she hates her sister than that she's worried about her baby. If she were worried, why would she get angry at you for helping your SIL? I do worry, though, that you might have endangered her by leaving her alone in your house. If your wife returns and sees her there, she might get hurt. She also will probably cheat on you if she hasn't already. I would proceed with the divorce. Update 2. Many people ask me for an update and I also do need some outsider's perspective over my situation, so here it goes. But before I just want to clarify, ask to people who kept calling me names for telling my sil the truth, why you guys kept telling me to mind my own business. She's family, and if families don't look out for each other and help, then who else will? Strangers. And it's not just some harmless small lie from my bill, it's life-changing. My sil isn't just my sil, she's my friend. If I didn't tell her the truth now, then my POS bill would have just kept cheating and I would lose a friend if I delayed. Anyway, coming back to update, my sil only stayed at my place for 2 days. After then she called me and said she can't trouble me anymore and she's going to live in hotel. I tried to convince her to not blow up her money unnecessarily, but she didn't listen and left anyway. And yes, I am divorcing my wife. After a week of NC, she called me and said she wants to reconcile. She said she was angry that I didn't listen to her and went behind her back. She said she didn't want to break her sister's family, so she wanted to hide it and convince my bill to not cheat, but I fucked it all up and she's coming back. I just asked her to come back cause I wanted to talk to her, and it's not something you discuss over calls. Once my wife arrived and started to explain herself, I told her I am filling. She was pretty shocked. She said we can make it work. I told her we can't. I don't trust you after everything you said, and you just left me with no contact and you show up suddenly while I was worried all day about where my wife is or is she safe, etc. I can't make it work. She tried convincing me to not divorce, but I had already made my intentions clear. I told her that her sister stayed at our place for 2 days and she got angry and said, fine, let's divorce, and left. I told my sil that I am getting a divorce. She wasn't happy about it, but she didn't try to convince me in or out of it. I told her that she can stay with me instead of hotel. She said it's inappropriate. I just said either you blow up your money and struggle or she can accept my help. So my sil and I have been living together for past couple of days and we discussed about our spouses and their behavior. We both got pretty angry about this all. My sil got even more angry than I was and she ended up calling my wife and called her names, and she told me she's hellbent on to ruining my bill. She is divorcing him and will go nuclear on him and ask for as much money as alimony and child support. She wants to drain him. My wife and I didn't talk to each other after she left and we both know that we are divorcing. My sil, though angry, she calmed down cause it's unhealthy for her and her baby, and she started focusing on career and read stories about single moms. She's preparing herself. So yeah, that's all, and weirdos stay away. Neither my sil nor I have any feelings between each other. I am just helping her and she wasn't feeling good about it, that's why she was hesitating so much. Call me a moral police, but I know I did the right thing not just for my sil but for me as well. I now know what kind of woman my wife is. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm so sorry you're having to go through with this. NTA, but please get support from whomever you can, and continue providing support to your SIL. Wishing you the best going forward. Reply, thanks, I got my parents' support but they won't pick sides, after all we both are their children and we are fighting, which is understandable. My mom calls me every day at least thrice to check up on me. Me and my SIL support each other and talk a lot. I am in pain but her pain is unimaginable. She's pregnant and found out her baby's father is a cheat, also low on money and ashamed to seek help. Guess she's no longer my SIL but my friend. I'll try my best to support her, but even though she's so much in pain she is thinking about herself and her child. Women are truly strong, especially when they are pregnant indeed. Commenter 2, did your wife ever tell you where she went? I find it interesting that she has a place where she can just go for an extended period of time and nobody knows where she went to. Reply, I don't and I don't care. I had mixed feelings. I love my wife and tried to stop her from leaving, tried to convince her but she left anyway while I was worried all day every day about my wife. I was so worried as to where my wife is she safe, has she ate, but she never contacted me after she left and her family didn't know about where she was. But no matter how much I love her, it's better if I just divorce. I have lost all my trust in her. Not just that she wanted to hide my bills cheating, she even said she would expect me to forgive her for cheating and she would forgive me if I cheated. I don't want that, none of this. Besides, if a pregnant woman can go so far putting her emotions aside and think for herself, then I also should cut out toxicity and restart my life instead of worrying. She kinda inspired me. New update. Aita for celebrating Christmas with my SIL but my STB ex-wife is pissed ad spreading rumors about us having an affair. I have made 3 posts prior to this one and I know nobody wants to go through all that, but I never thought celebrating Christmas with my SIL would cause this much drama, so I'll drop a TLDR. I found out that my bill was cheating on my SIL, my STB ex-wife's sister. When I told my then wife she told me to stay quiet. I went ahead and told my SIL. My then wife's reasoning was that we shouldn't interfere in their marriage as it doesn't concern us. I was angry that she would defend cheating. When I asked her if she would forgive me if I cheated, she said she would cause it's just sex. After a huge fight she left and disappeared for a week. When she came back I told her that I am filling in currently we going through divorce process. So me and my STBX and going through legal proceedings and we are going to get divorced 100% cause I can't trust someone who defends cheaters, especially someone who defends a cheater who cheats on her own sister. Yes, their sister relationship was fucked but still it's wrong for me and for my SIL. My SIL is going through divorce process as well and she's aggressively seek child support and alimony. So on Christmas I invited my SIL to celebrate with me. I had already been supporting her financially and we got closer and became friends cause we both were betrayed by our partners. We would talk, we would vent and get angry so much at both of me. My SIL and I celebrated Christmas with children from both of our family like nephews and nieces, and even their friends joined us for a while. We kinda went overboard and showered them with gifts. But my STBX got to know about it and she told everyone in my and her family that it's us that were cheating, and now I am trying to get married to her sister, which is why I am divorcing her. Most of our families didn't believe her except some of hers and mine. They said I am a cheat and I shouldn't be celebrating with my SIL cause she's my ex-SIL, cause I am divorcing my wife and I should be spending time with my wife instead of divorcing her. She did not wrong me. I tried to tell them that her defending cheaters is so stupid and I and my ex-SIL are friends and we celebrated with children's and she herself is pregnant and I was just supporting her and she also supports me cause we are going through so much. But they kept saying that I should take my wife back and do good by her, and spending time with my STBX's SIL is not good and we're cheating. So Aita for celebrating Christmas with her and children's from our family. They didn't stay for a long time, but after they left, me and my SIL did spend a long time together, but it was just us drinking and talking about future and what we should do about our partners, and we just vent to each other. Stories number 2. My coworker said I stole her baby name, but I don't even have a baby. Or a boyfriend. Or plans. So this happened a few weeks ago at work, and I'm still confused if I hallucinated the whole thing. For context, I, 27F, work in a small office, and one of my coworkers, let's call her Amanda, 30SF, is currently pregnant with her second kid. We're not close, we've never hung out, I don't have her number, and the most we've ever talked about is whose turn it is to clean the microwave. That's it. Anyway, we were in the break room, and I made an offhand comment about baby names. I said something like, if I ever have a daughter, I'd probably name her Isla. I've just always loved that name. That's it. One sentence. Not even a big dramatic conversation. Just passing time while waiting for my sad little microwave lunch. She goes dead silent and just stares at me. Then she says, you knew I was going to name my baby Isla. You saw it on my Pinterest board. Ma'am, what? I blinked and told her, I don't follow you on Pinterest, because again, we are not friends. I wouldn't even know how to find her Pinterest board if someone offered me a reward. She gets super defensive and starts telling everyone in the office that I'm copying her and trying to steal her moment. Like, girl, I don't even have a boyfriend. My last date ghosted me before we even met for coffee. The only thing I'm expecting is a migraine from dealing with this drama. But it didn't stop there. The next day, she brought in cupcakes for someone's birthday, pointedly skipped giving me one, and then said, loud enough for me to hear, some people just have no originality. First they take names, what's next my husband? At that point, even the boss had to step in and ask her to cool it. Now everyone at work jokes that I better not say I like the name Olivia, or I'll get hit with a cease and desist. It's just so ridiculous. Like I get being hormonal, I get being sensitive about baby stuff, but how is someone stealing a name if they're not pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or even in a relationship? I'm literally out here trying to keep my plants alive and hoping my landlord doesn't raise rent again. Babies are not even in the top 100 of my concerns. Anyway, I've been avoiding name conversations at all costs now. Next time someone asks me what I'd name a baby, I'm saying refrigerator and walking away. Stories number 3. Aita for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. I'm 98.7% sure that I am not the here, but I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer, so this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't need anything big or expensive. What I asked for is, for husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee. For us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. Go to my favorite taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I had figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple hours at the zoo and worst case he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my MIL out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them, his mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mom and MIL that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family and sent them a group chat, which included husband, my dad, and FIL, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My MIL is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, FIL sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night my MIL called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said FIL was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself and that it's not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mom promised it would only take a couple hours, etc. etc. I think most people know what happened. Husband went over first thing, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda pissed, but whatever. Spent time with the little guy. Then when he went down for his morning nap I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then when little guy woke up 2 hours later I called husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later husband called and said they weren't done but he was getting ready to come home. It's 15 to 20 minute drive from my FIL's house. At that point we'd missed the window to make it to zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later his mom called and said since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering a pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got home he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad because me and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day MIL has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate any time, like we did with my mom and MIL. But it was my first ever Mother's Day. And it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom. And she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday he asked if I was still going to my parents', then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad he might want to go see him or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling because of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what if anything my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day, I assume from his mom. She did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of husbands, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt he continues to prioritize his mom's feeling over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. Comments. Technically we've tried to alternate holidays or celebrate with one of our families on a different day, but his mom calls and texts non-stop if we spend a holiday with my family. I already told him this Christmas we are spending Christmas Day at home, just the three of us. That should be interesting to see what tricks Mil pulls out. I think I was trying to convince myself he'd come though for us, lesson learned. To be fair, if I really wanted to keep him from our son, I would have gone to my parents without him. I expected his mom to guilt him into going over there for Father's Day, and after what she pulled on Mother's Day I wasn't going to reward her by letting her spend yesterday with our son. LOL, actually my mom and I get along really well. She can be overbearing and pushy too, with the difference being when I tell her to back off she does. But she said the same thing a lot of people her are saying. That I'm justified in my feelings, but if we end up going down this path we won't be married for long. She thought I should accept his apology and let it go and give him the chance to do better. My husband can suck sometimes, but generally, when his parents aren't involved, he's a good husband and good dad. We're both only children. But his mom is way more invested in his life than either of my parents. My mom can be a pain, but when I ask her to stay in her lane she usually does. Somebody says YTA because she did it on purpose and her husband didn't. Even if I don't necessarily agree with comments like this, I still appreciate them. Reddit can be such an echo chamber sometimes, it's good to get different opinions and perspectives. But you do bring up something that has been a niggling thought, which is why I posted in the first place. Because of our history and how often this sort of thing has happened before, I respectfully disagree with you. But just the fact it made me pause tells me it's a valid consideration. I think this was just the last one in a long line of this kind of behavior and really pushed me over the edge because it was so important to me. I did want him to have an idea about how he made me feel. I think it impressed on him how hurt I was. But you are right, this isn't sustainable. I'm feeling like we both did some serious damage to our marriage and we need to figure out how to fix it. It's because this kind of thing has happened lots of times, but this time it ruined something that I thought was really important to me. Update. I posted here last week, you can find it in my profile if you want the backstory. I wanted to thank everyone. I've had a lot of people asking for an update, so here we go. This weekend the husband and I sat down and talked about everything. I expressed to him how incredibly upset and disappointed I was at how both Mother's Day and Father's Day went down. I really wanted to recognize and celebrate my husband for FD every bit as much as I hoped he would recognize and celebrate me for MD. He said he knew he shouldn't have gone to his parents on MD but didn't know what to do since his mom was pressuring him and saying if his dad got hurt it would be husband's fault. He admitted that he knew he messed up and has been terrified that I was going to ask for a divorce. Since he cut to the chase, I told him that if this is how our life is going to be, I don't want to stay married to him. I explained to him that I realized that while yes, I was upset about what happened on Mother's Day, that isn't what is making me feel this way. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This kind of behavior from his mom has been happening since we before got engaged and has just escalated. This has been happening for years. As someone here suggested, I had listed all the times events, that I could remember, that she had overstepped or just completely ruined. For our freaking honeymoon, she called him twice a day. Every morning to find out our plans for the day and then every evening to hear how the day went. Plus the constant texting, asking for pictures, telling him how much she missed him. I don't know how I thought this was acceptable. She tried to make our wedding about herself, tried to make my pregnancy about herself, tried to take over when we brought our son home, just constantly inserting herself and overstepping. I told him that I don't really want to get divorced right now, but it's going to happen anyway. I'd rather get divorced now while we can still do it amicably. Because if nothing changes I'm going to end up so angry and resentful that it would make divorce very contentious and I don't want that for our son. At this point we were both crying, upset and emotional. So I told him that I'll give him some time to decide what he's going to do, but if I don't see clear effort being made to start prioritize me and our son that I'd move forward with the divorce. And the change has to continue. Every time we've fought about this in the past, he's promised he'll change and sometimes he has, but then his mom pulls him back into her orbit. If we are to stay married, these are some of the things I'm insisting on in no particular order. We each own the relationship with our own parents. That means I'm not planning anything for his parents anymore. No cards, no presents, no brunches or parties, no pictures, nothing. If his parents reach out to me, I'm going to redirect them to him. I'm not entertaining or visiting with his parents when he's not around. I'm not taking our son over to theirs by myself. And if they drop by, I'm not inviting them in unless my husband is there. I'm not changing my plans at the last minute just because they decided to drop by without coordinating with us in advance or because they want us to do something with them. Neither of us makes plans with our parents or accepts invitations until we discuss with our partner. And if we don't both agree, that we don't do it. And we don't throw each other under the bus, we just say something like, we checked our schedule and we're not available. Holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, etc. are at our house. We can discuss inviting our parents, but we're not going to someone else's house to celebrate something involving our son when we can do it at home. This includes his first birthday, which Mael is trying to take over and plan. Other holidays will alternate between our parents. And we will focus on being present. That means no more texting talking to his mom non-stop when we're with my parents. No more oversharing with Mael. She doesn't need to know about our finances or health, medical issues or vacation plans or anything unless we both agree it's something we want to share. His visits to his parents can't be at the expense of spending quality time with me and our son. I don't mind him visiting his parents, but he's over there a couple times a week. We are his immediate family now, we should get priority. We're not doing things just because she said we should. And we're not changing our plans just because she doesn't like them. She really doesn't understand that wrong and different are not the same thing. In her mind, if we're not doing what she wants, how she wants, then we are in the wrong. He needs to go to therapy with someone specializing in enmeshment. And we need to start going to couples therapy. I didn't even realize I have so much pent-up resentment that I can't look at my husband the same anymore. I'm just angry at him all the time and I hate being this way. When it comes to our son, our word, husband and me, is law. If she disregards or minimizes our decisions for our son, then she loses access until she learns to behave. When me or my husband say no to either set of parents, the other person will support them and back them up. That means my husband has to stop trying to get me to agree with his mom all the time. I can tell he's freaked out and really stressed about the idea of putting hard boundaries in place or distancing from his parents. And I do feel for him. He said he feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place and that me and his mom are both putting a ton of pressure on him and both have conflicting expectations. And that's fine. He just needs to understand that I'm not tolerating this anymore. I know this will cause an absolute shit storm with his parents, but I feel like if we don't do it now, it'll just be harder down the road. What does everyone think? Am I being unreasonable? Are there other boundaries we should put in place? Comments. He did seem overwhelmed, and admittedly it is a lot. I wouldn't expect it all at once, but this is where we have to end up and I have to see progress and change. I'll sit down with him again tonight and start having that conversation. I want him to be successful. I want us to be successful and I'm willing to put the work in and to also help support him, but he will need to do the same. I think his mom is at least partially responsible for some of his earlier relationships ending. I'll make sure to point this out. I feel like this is my last chance to try and turn this around. If it happens, that is on him. And I think it will just show that he'll never be ready or able to have an healthy, adult, romantic relationship. I would never allow my parents to act or treat him the way his act and treat me. If we do get divorced, at least I'll be able to say I tried my best and gave him every opportunity. What I was trying to say is if things are going to continue as they have been, I'd rather get a divorce. But, if he is willing to put the effort in to improve our marriage and make real change, then so am I. All my boundaries apply to both of us, there is nothing I'm asking him to do that I don't already do, or aren't will to do, with my parents. But yes, if he's just going to say, things will get better, without trying to make them better, I'd rather just be done and get the divorce. I absolutely don't want him to be my bitch. I know I can be hard-headed and opinionated. And I want a partner that will call me out and stand up to me when it's warranted and a partner that will support me and have my back when that is warranted, and I want to do the same for my partner. That is one of my fears. I don't want to have to be a nanny reminding him to behave and be a good husband-father. That's not what I meant to sign up for. If that's what ends up happening, then this won't work out. I've always hesitated to do this because I didn't want to come off as a nagging wife, but I realize now I was just enabling the status quo. But you are right, we need to have some way of providing feedback to one another and being able to communicate in an open and healthy manner even if the underlying topic is toxic. It was an absolutely brutal and heart-wrenching conversation. I never want to have to do that again. But I'm terrified that he won't follow through and the next conversation will be even worse. I don't think we ended the discussion because we were done. We were both just too wrung out to continue. Also, part of the reason I want couples therapy is because I don't want to have to do that alone again. I don't mind helping and supporting him. That's part of being married. I know he's going to stumble and trip sometimes. We all do. I'm not perfect, I'm going to screw up too. And I'm happy to help him. But I can't do it for him, he has to want to make a change. And if he does, I'll be there. And if he doesn't, then that's a whole different conversation. It's not just that she called every day. It's that he answered the damn phone even when I got upset and told him I thought it was ridiculous. And I'll be honest, what really pisses me off not is that I didn't make a bigger deal. It pissed me off, and I told him it pissed me off, but I never followed through. I just let him say things like, she's excited for us, or, she misses us, and the next time she called I'd roll my eyes and say something passive-aggressive. Then when they hung up we'd carry on with what we were doing. I should have been more explicit that I didn't think it was acceptable. I'm not saying I expected no contact. I texted my parents when we landed at our destination, and then again when we were on the plane to go home. But that was it. And their only response was, have fun, and, have a safe flight, can't wait to see you. And I see my folks probably every 2 to 3 weeks and they live about the same distance as his parents. So I don't have a problem with him going to visit. But that often? Really? Because I was young and stupid and really believed that, love conquers all. Because I really believed once we got married he'd stand up for us. Then I really believed once we had kids he'd make us his priority. Trust me, these are all thoughts I've had, and now I'm in the situation where I have a son that I love more than anything. So I can't wish I had left because I'm so grateful for my son, but I also can't stay anymore if this is going to be my future. Right now, how I ended up here is an interesting academic question. Answering it won't fix this, although maybe it will help me avoid being in a similar situation if we get divorced. The important questions are, can this be fixed, and how? Somebody comments she seems to have the same character as MIL, and to let MIL have some things. We've been together 8 years, married 5, and our son will be 1 later this summer. My whole point is I'm trying to keep her from ruling my house. She doesn't want to be a part of anything, she wants to own and run everything the way she wants. The reason I listed all these rules as you call them is because these are all areas where she has completely ignored what we want and imposed her will on us. I can't tell you how many times we've had plans that she insisted on us canceling or changing or including them on. And yes, he should have said no, but whenever he's tried she pushes and guilt trips and threatens until he gives in. That kind of thing is entirely typical of her and her behavior. Which of my rules do you think is unfair or unreasonable? I'm asking because I'm really curious. I feel like all these are things in a normal marriage you just have a conversation about and decide where to go for the holiday or whatever. But that's never worked with her. If we don't do what she wants, how she wants, when she wants, then she starts with the manipulation. Do you really think it's okay that she called him twice a day for our honeymoon? Or that she texted him constantly? Or that when we are doing a holiday at my parents' she keeps calling and texting? Or that when we plan a trip she convinces him we shouldn't go? Or that she tricked him into spending Mother's Day at her house and skipping all the plans we had made? I think if my MIL and my husband had a normal, even slightly healthy relationship, you'd be right. But I honestly think she sees him as an extension of herself and not a full-grown individual who can make his own choices and live his own life. If my husband wants to tell his mom about his health, that is entirely his choice. But why does he need to tell her about my health, medical issues, DR appointments, etc.? Why does she need to know how much I earn or how much I have saved up or how much I paid for my car or any of that? How is that her business? If we decide to take a trip, why do we need to tell her how much we're spending? And why does visiting her take priority over plans we made? I can't count the number of times we were doing something together where he bailed because she needed help with something stupid. Or the number of times plans got cancelled because suddenly she wants him to come over. If he wants to devote all his time and effort to his mom, that is absolutely fine. But he can't do that and still be an involved father or engaged husband. What happens when our son is older and my husband has to choose between attending his school events or games or whatever? Because yes, his mom won't be around forever, but our son won't be a child forever. What happens in 18 years when our son goes to college and my husband realizes he missed seeing him grow up because he was busy catering to his mom, and I won't be a third wheel in my own marriage? I won't spend my marriage wondering what plans she is going to screw up or what decisions we make that she's going to try and override. It's not about sharing info or visiting. It's when those things happen to the extreme and impact our life as a married couple. Stories number 4. Aita for snapping at my brother because he's why we moved. Me, 14F brother, Daniel, 16M. I used to live in City X, I was born and raised there. All my friends are here, all extracurricular opportunities one have are here, i.e. the debate circuit is very strong here, connections I've cultivated for youth activism, good internship opportunities, etc. But my brother fucked up big time about a year ago and ruined it all for us. I'm not going to go into the exact nature of what he did, but it was bad. He didn't do something that would have serious legal consequences or anything. But it was stupid, incredibly problematic, and got him landed in enough shit for it to get spread throughout social media. He also got in trouble with the school, and he claimed he couldn't stay there because his reputation is ruined. Personally, I think he should have thought of that before he did it. My parents were mad, but they got sympathetic because he said he was getting bullied and they wanted to protect his future, so they moved him to 2 other high schools, but it ended in the same way because everyone knew what happened anyways. So my parents and him decided to move to an entirely different state, in City Y, without consulting me at all. My brother's future is important, but why should my future be sacrificed just because he fucked up? City Y is super small and has way shittier schools, and doesn't have a debate league. I also had to leave all my friends behind. No one knows about what my brother did, so he's happy, my parents are happy he's happy. I'm the only one who's not happy. At the risk of sounding cocky, I had a really good future in my extracurricular. Like definitely could have shaped up to be one of the best nationally according to a lot of people, if I had the right coaching and competition. I could have gotten scholarships to great schools for it. But no, Daniel had to get himself into deep shit, and drag me into it too. I've been here for 4 months now, and I didn't talk to my brother at all for the first 2 months. Now we're all at home, and my frustrations are building every time I see him. So at dinner, my brother was talking about his college prospects with my parents, and I was just so frustrated that I snapped. Our conversation went like, him, I think I have a good shot at getting into state school. Me, like hell you do, with the shit you did last year. If you think running away to a different city and ruining my life can make what you did go away, then you're in for a fucking treat. Him, you're such a fucking bitch, get over it already. Mom, Dante Diondebate, stop blaming your brother, you need to start adjusting to City Y, apologize for what you said. Dad, state school, won't know. Me, I'll email every single college you apply to with the screenshots and evidence if we don't move back to City X, that's a promise not a threat. My parents got really furious with me for that, but I'm not joking. Aita or my brother parents? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, what exactly did he do that got him in so much trouble? I feel like that info could be important in deciding whether or not you're TA. Reply, Daniel went on a racist rant, calling POC students he didn't like racial slurs, saying things like, that's why we need segregation again, etc., and he posted it on his main Snapchat story instead of his private one, with all his little racist buddies, and accidentally left it up for hours. It was a fucking shit show and he deserved all of it, in my opinion. Commenter 2, did your parents do anything about this at all? Was he punished at home? Did he show any remorse at all? NTA regardless. I'm just curious. I think before I moved my first step would be to make sure my kid understood how vile what they did was, and we'd be looking at ways he could help the community and try to repair the damage, before ultimately deciding if we should leave or not. And it really bothers me when parents don't take initiative to actually hold their kids accountable when they do stuff like this. Reply, obviously there was a lot of backlash against him from students of color, but he just complained about them being sensitive snowflakes SJWs. Our parents made him write apologies to the kids he called slurs, but he sure dragged his feet doing it. He tried to get me to write one for him. So yeah, not a lot of remorse. His only punishments were getting grounded for 2 months, having to write those letters, and making him delete social media. He re-downloaded them all 3 weeks later, and they just let him. My parents are pretty indulgent of him. Commenter 3, do you still have family in City X? Maybe your family will allow you to go back to stay with them. Normally I wouldn't suggest that, but you shouldn't have to sacrifice your future because your brother screwed up. Reply, my aunt lives there, but LVE asked and my parents won't let me live with her. Commenter 4, NTA you're frustrated and angry. Are there friends or family you can live with during the week? I know you resent your parents, but they're probably doing the best and only thing they know how to do protect their son. Reply, I know they just want to protect him, but I'm their kid too and no we don't have family in this city and I can't leave because of quarantine either way. Update, AITA for snapping at my brother because he's the reason we moved. Hello Reddit, before I begin, I'd like to thank everyone for how supportive they have been in response to my last post. I've gotten a lot of PMs about helping me with debate and advice, which is greatly appreciated. I haven't really gotten a chance to give y'all an update, and you'll see why. So as background, my uncle Randy, not real name of course, doesn't have kids, but he's dating my Aunt Rebecca, technically girlfriend, but it's been 8 years, so she's family. They live across the country in City Z, which is a great place, not as nice as City X for debate, but definitely better than City Y. Since they live pretty far away, we only really see them on holidays, the years we spend it with Dad's family. Randy is very well off, I don't know how much he makes exactly, but I've stayed at his house and it's very nice for a place in City Z. And it's not his only one. He's very generous, and he has set up college funds for me, Daniel, and Rebecca's little brother, Ricky. I'd still rather get a scholarship than use Randy's money, because I don't want to be a burden. Ricky is younger than me, so sometimes I tutor him over the phone, we're pretty close. I also talk to my uncle fairly frequently, we talk about politics together. However, he doesn't really speak to like Daniel, because he's rude to Rebecca. Anyways, I was helping Ricky with his math homework shortly after my original post, when I just started to cry. I don't really know what came over me, but I haven't told anyone about how upset I was before then, because there's so much else going on in the world. Ricky and I talked, and I found out that my parents actually told the entire family the reason we were moving was because City Y had a better debate circuit and they believed it because no one else does debate. I hadn't discussed the move with them, because I bottle my emotions, and they didn't really ask me about the move because they assumed I wanted it. I ended up talking to my uncle about it, and we had a really great conversation about it. He's extremely angry at my parents, and Daniel. This was the second to last straw for him, and he ended up removing half of Daniel's college fund and split it into me and Ricky's funds. Daniel was very upset, because he'd been relying on that money and our parents hadn't saved up. So he threw my phone down the stairs. Then I emailed my uncle from my laptop, and he revoked the rest of Daniel's college fund too. My parents are quite angry at me too, because it's not like they can come up with $200,000 by the time Daniel goes to college. My uncle has offered for me to come stay with them in City Z, which I have taken him up on. He also generously bought me a new phone, which I'm writing this post with right now. Edit, I've gotten a lot of messages, and I can't really answer them all, so I'll just address the most common questions. What did your brother do? Posted a racist Snapchat rant on his public story instead of private. I don't want to go too into detail besides that. Insert video of racist kid, your brother. Either way, I'm not going to confirm or deny it. However, I'm really impressed at the variety of racist kids vaguely fitting Daniel's description you guys have managed to find. Have your parents agreed to you moving in with your uncle? Short answer yes. Long answer, took a lot of pressure from other family members, but they conceded. I'll be with them on holidays. And yes, I agree, my uncle is fantastic. I'm a very lucky niece to have him, smiley face. More relevant comments. Commenter 1, damn, your parents are a real piece of work. How did they not think that this information wouldn't get out? Like you never talked to your extended family? Reply, yeah, I don't think they really thought it through. The rush of the move forced them to come up with something fast, and I guess they were just hoping LD calm down and go along with the lie in the future. Idrik TBH. Commenter 2, are you in a safe place? Like your brother won't harm you in any way? Just break your stuff. Reply, I don't think he would go so far as to physically attack me, and I'm sure my parents would intervene if he did. Also, I was gifted a taser by my friend for Christmas in Mayo, so if worst comes to worst. Thank you for your concern though. Commenter 3, that's amazing, when do you get to move? Reply, ideally, it'd be before the next school year starts, but it all depends on how quickly the curve is flattened. Commenter 4, how are your parents treating you right now? And your brother? I'd imagine it's quite tense or awkward right now. Reply, when my brother isn't being passive-aggressive, he's ignoring me. Usually when we make eye contact he'll just walk into a different room and slam the door really loudly or game with his friends and complain about his bitch sister. Our rooms are next to each other. My parents are upset, they think the whole situation has blown up a lot more than they wanted, especially considering that a lot of the family is upset that they lied. They've calmed down a lot, but occasionally my mom will beg me to convince my uncle to change his mind. So frosty is the term I'd use. OOP on if her brother can still go to college, he can still go to college. Perhaps he'd have to take out loans or go to a school that's cheaper than his first choice, but considering what career he wants to pursue, it requires a college education, so he'll be getting one somehow. Did my uncle overreact? Perhaps. But it's his money and not my business what he does with it. Stories number 5. AITA for leaving my friend's birthday party after she didn't let me in her house. I, F23, was invited to my friend Sasha's, F23, birthday party. It was for a Friday at 8:30 p.m. We would start at her house to pre-game and then go to bars. I had work that day from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. but I really wanted to go so I rushed home, ate dinner, got ready, and drove to her place. We were texting the whole day about the plans and she seemed very excited for me to join her and her friends. I am acquainted with her friends but not besties. I arrived at her house at 8:30 on the dot. I hung up the phone with my boyfriend and texted her to let her know I was there. She said, okay, so I walked up and knocked on the door. I heard music and people talking inside, so I knew they were there. Nobody answered. I noticed she had a Ring camera, so I waved in front of it, knowing Ring notifies people's phones. Still nobody let me in. I knocked louder and texted her that I was at the door, but I was neither let in nor texted back. I knocked even louder and started shouting, "Hey Sasha, I'm here." I finally hear footsteps coming to the front door, but instead of letting me in, I heard the deadbolt lock click, locking me out. I walked away from the door and called my boyfriend to tell him what was going on. I told him my feelings were hurt and that I wanted to go home. He convinced me to stay and knock again, rationalizing that it was a miscommunication. I texted her again saying, "Okay, I'm out front." Sasha immediately answered, "Okay, sounds good." So I knocked again. No answer. I heard the music get turned down and Sasha say, "Guys, I think she's here." So I knocked as loud as I could and said, "Yes, I'm here. It's me." Footsteps came towards the door, and again the deadbolt sounded and the door remained locked and the footsteps walked away. At this point I had been knocking for 12 minutes. I was so upset and angry that I left and texted Sasha, "So I've been knocking for over 10 minutes and no one let me in, so I'm going home." She immediately called me, but I didn't answer because I was afraid I would say something out of anger that I would have regretted. She texted me that she looked through the peephole and did not see me. I think that's BS because she literally had a Ring camera. I told her that my feelings were hurt and I felt unwelcomed. I did not receive an answer. Aita for leaving. What could be the reasoning behind this? Relevant comments. Commenter 1, Sasha ain't no friend of yours. Reply, yeah, I figured. Very sad because we met in college and after graduating I continued living in my college town and she was staying for more schooling. We would go out and get dinner or go to one of our places once every 2 to 3 weeks and catch up, and SHE was always the initiator of plans. I was good friends with one of her other friends too and I was shocked that she let this happen. Commenter 2, the only way you would be wrong is if you were at the wrong house. If not NTA and those are not your friends. Reply, LOL, I was not at the wrong house, I had been there before. Commenter 3, info, you heard the deadbolt click twice. Once in the second paragraph, then again in the third. I'm confused how a door that was already locked was then locked again. Did you get clarification about this? Is it possible Sasha told one of her other guests to unlock the door for you? Reply, yeah, my guess was they unlocked it when I walked away the first time to call my boyfriend. OOP on how Sasha invited her to the party. Reply, she texted me the week before to invite me, then texted me day of to chat about it. Commenter 4, WTF. This sounds like they thought this would be funny, but it was instead cruel. NTA. Update. Yes, I was at the right house, LOL. I had been there before. Yes, I tried to open the door multiple times and it was still locked. My boyfriend told me to knock again. BC, either this is a miscommunication or Sasha is a secret evil bee, and Sasha had never done anything remotely mean in the past, so he gave her the benefit of the doubt. On to the update. The next morning, one of Sasha's friends, Taylor, F22, texted me to ask me if I was joining them in part 2 of the birthday party that night. It was the same plan to pregame and go out to bars. But why would I go to get humiliated again? I said no but did not tell her why. Sasha texted me a long apology a little after I told Taylor I wasn't joining that night, saying that she was sorry I felt unwelcomed and that she really wanted me there and she genuinely did not see my through the peephole. This gave me relief and I replied saying, that makes me feel so much better. I thought I was invited as a prank, LOL. To which she responded that she was offended I would even think she would do something like that. Like what? So I said, I wouldn't normally think that, BC, we are good friends, but after knocking on your door for 10 minutes and no one answering I just started to get in my own head. I probably should have been meaner, LOL, but I feel so guilty being mean. She didn't answer my text for a while, and when she did, she said, so dinner on Wednesday? Same time as usual? Heck no. I'm about to get done and dashed. My friends and boyfriend ended up convincing me to make plans with her. BC, the worst thing that can happen is I don't have fun and don't go again. Okay, fair. We make plans and when the day comes I am walking out the door to my house and my ceiling starts leaking. It's like divine intervention telling me not to go. We reschedule for the next day. Now I am usually extremely open to giving people second chances, but this just felt weird. I don't believe her when she says she didn't see me through the peephole. So before our scheduled dinner, I reached out and texted her saying that I have been wrestling with something and I don't think I can get over what happened at your birthday party and I don't see this friendship going further. She responded with, is this a joke? And went on to say how she didn't see me and how she already apologized multiple times and I seemed fine, but if this is truly something I can't get past, she has nothing else to say. I never responded, she never texted me again. I think dropping her was my best course of action. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Thank you to everyone here for helping me get my head out of my butt and see her for who she truly is. I appreciate all of you smiling face with hearts. Relevant comments. Commenter, didn't she have a window to look out of? Couldn't she have actually opened the door to check to see if you were there? Her arguments about not seeing you through the peephole are nonsense. Total and utter crap. She could have opened the door instead of dead-bolting it from the inside. She was being really mean to you and you found her out for her nasty behavior. Well done you for going on this massive weight loss plan, and the weight you've lost is this mean, inconsiderate, nasty person. Well done you. Reply, the only reason she wouldn't open the door I could think of is safety reasons, like it could be a random murderer or whatever, huh? But she knew it was me, so. Commenter 2, so Sasha is ignoring that you told her multiple times that you were there, and she not only read those messages but responded. The fact that someone heard the door and locked it, if she didn't see you through the peephole, why not open the door and look rather than locking and then deadbolting it? And the fact that she has a Ring camera. It's BS. I don't know why she decided to pull this, but she deliberately invited you and then shut you out, and honestly, does it even really matter why? Stop wasting your time and energy on her and keep it moving. If she invites you to go somewhere, say no thanks, and let her find a new victim. Stories number 6. Aita for telling a girl she's not coming to the Bachelorette because she can't afford it, after she kept changing her mind and having other people speak for her. I'm the MOH planning an 18-girl Bachelorette. In January, I started the group chat and put down $7K for the Airbnb. Everyone had until March to pay their $375 share. This week I sent the rest of the budget, $250 due by August 1st. Then I got a text from a girl we'll call A. Hey, it's A. I didn't realize we were going to have to send more money on top of the $375 we sent. I just moved into my first apartment and I have no money to give at the moment or in the next couple of months. I definitely cannot afford it right now. Do you want to just give me the $375 back? Or is there something we can do for me to still go? LMKTHX. I replied, I'll send you your money back. She said, okay. THX. I refunded her, reran the numbers, and updated the group. The next day, I got a text from girl B saying she and a now want to come just for Saturday. A bit frustrating, but I said okay and adjusted the budget again. Later that night, another bridesmaid told me girl C had contacted her to ask me to give A an extension. I've never met A, B, or C, and I was confused. So I texted A, hey, I'm honestly confused. You mentioned you couldn't pay and wanted your $375 back, then B said you're both coming just for Saturday, and now D is asking C about an extension for you. I totally understand things can change, but each time they do, I have to redo all the numbers, which is a lot to manage. Can you let me know your final decision so I can plan accordingly? A. I didn't say I wanted my $375 back, I asked if you wanted to give that to me or if there was something we can do for me to still go. Because I want to be there for bride. I didn't ask B to ask you for me, she just did it and so did D. They just want me to go. I will do what D and C are saying. THX. Me, you said, I have no money to give at the moment or in the next couple of months. I definitely cannot afford it right now. Do you want to just give me the $300 back? That sounds like a beat around the bush way of asking for your money back to me. I don't care who asked who, all I care about is your final decision. You didn't ask me for an extension. You did not come to me with a plan. Hey, money is tight for me. Would I be able to send you half of my remaining balance on August 1st and the other half August 15th? Not, I definitely cannot afford it now or in the next couple of months. I'm not a bank. I don't know you. I'm not in charge of your finances. A. Or is there something we can do for me to still go? LMKTHX. Did you not read this? Not beating around the bush at all, but God, why are you being so rude? You could have given everyone a heads up that the price could change or have some kind of budget. I understand this is stressful for you, but you don't need to be rude to people, especially people you don't know. I'm good actually. I just won't go. Hope it's easier for you, LOL. When bride asks why I'm not going anymore, I'll be sure to let her know. Me, you're not going because you can't afford it. Stories number 7. Aita for refusing to babysit my sister-in-law's kids after I saw text messages between her and my mother-in-law saying horrible things about me. I, 26F, am married to my husband, 28M, that I don't have the best relationship with his family but have always been civil. I've never had a problem with my sister-in-law, 30F, but there was always some tension between us. She asked me 2 months ago to babysit her children since she likes going out with her girlfriends on weekends but never got the time because of the kids, and plus I don't work weekends. My husband thought this would be a great way to bond with her kids, 4F, 7M, and smooth the tension between me and my sil. I thought a few weekends here and there wouldn't hurt, but she was also refusing to pay since I'm family. I didn't want to without payment, but I did want make my husband happy and keep the peace because I knew she was going to cause drama in his family if I didn't, so I said yes. It wasn't so bad and the kids are nice and respectful, plus she paid for food. Fast forward to this weekend, I saw a notification on my sil's phone who was sitting next to me on Friday at a family dinner between my mil and sil talking shit about me, saying stuff like I'm annoying. I was shocked because I had been babysitting her kids for free and been very nice to her. I confronted both of them with my husband, who said it wasn't a big deal and to drop it, but I was enraged. They both said I had no right to snoop and crossed a line, but eventually they gave a half-hearted apology. I was still mad at them and my husband for not sticking up for me. My sil asked me if I could babysit on Sunday. I said no and told her I was shocked at the audacity for her even asking. Now my husband and his family are mad and saying I'm overreacting and blowing things out of proportion. I think I'm in the right, but my husband isn't speaking to me and is sleeping in the guest room. So Reddit MITA. Stories number 8. Aita for wanting to leave my wife after she gave birth to my child. My 34M wife, 32F, and I have been married for 7 years. After a miscarriage, she admitted to me that she had multiple affairs over the last 4 years of our marriage. Her last affair ended a year ago. She begged for us to go to therapy to work on our marriage, but I refused to go. During this time I had moved out of the house. Occasionally I would go back to take care of the house and animals, and she would constantly try to manipulate me into coming back. I had every intention of getting a divorce, but the process is slow. I hated the betrayal I felt, but I also missed my wife during the separation. One thing led to another and we had sex and she got pregnant again. Shortly after the news came, I had to leave for work about 12 hours away from her. She would call to give me updates about the pregnancy and talk about our marriage. We were separated for majority of her pregnancy. I told her that I still wanted a divorce, but I would consider reconciling after the baby was born. After several months away from her, I came to the realization that I could not trust her, nor could I forgive her for her infidelity. I feel like the last 7 years of my life has been a lie. While I was away from her, I met someone and a relationship blossomed between us. I truly feel like I love this woman. She has been made aware that I am still married and that I have a baby on the way. My wife is not aware of my new girlfriend. Fast forward to a month ago, I had to go home for the birth of our baby boy. My wife has been pressuring me to reconcile, but I told her that I plan to divorce her again. After the birth of our baby boy, she has been blaming me for ruining our family because I don't want to stay with her and try to fix our marriage. I want to have a co-parenting relationship with my wife, but she is acting very erratic while I am here for our son. Aita for wanting to leave my wife. Any advice on how to deal with this is appreciated. Edit. Thank you all for the mixed reviews. It was expected. I will be talking with a lawyer and will update once I have a chance to talk to one. Appreciate the sound advice as well. Comments. Commenter 1. Info. Are you sure the baby is yours? Reply. Baby is mine. Commenter 2. Get a paternity test to ensure. See a lawyer. Take your time with someone who is involved with a married man expecting a baby and is okay with it. Commenter 3. Your wife sucks for cheating on you repeatedly over 4 years. That's a serious betrayal, and it's understandable that you'd feel like the entire marriage was a lie. But you're not innocent in this either. You were emotionally and physically indecisive for months, which gave her mixed signals. You told her you wanted a divorce but kept showing up, had unprotected sex, resulting in a baby, and continued entertaining her hopes of reconciliation even while emotionally checking out. You even said you'd consider reconciling after the baby was born. That's a huge breadcrumb to someone already trying to save a relationship. Then, instead of clarifying things, you started a new relationship while still married, didn't tell your wife about it, and are still hiding it from her now that the baby is born. That's not just messy, it's dishonest. You're fully within your rights to leave the marriage. Infidelity is a deal breaker for many. But your execution has been cowardly and passive. You didn't set clear boundaries, didn't communicate with honesty, and avoided taking firm action when it mattered most, and now you're reaping the chaos that comes from that. My advice: divorce her now. No more delays, no more maybes. Tell her about your new relationship, not to rub it in, but because she deserves clarity. She's parenting with you and should understand the new dynamic. Lawyer up and establish formal custody and support agreements. Don't leave this up to emotional negotiations. Stop playing emotional games with her and yourself. You're not the victim anymore, you're a participant in this mess. Get therapy, not for reconciliation, but for you, to process the betrayal, learn better communication boundaries, and avoid repeating this kind of mess in the future. You're not the asshole for wanting to leave, but you're the asshole for how you handled it. Update. Thank you all to those who did not think I was the a-hole here. It's been a tough 2 years. Here's how it went down. I took a paternity test, and my son is confirmed to be mine. I have filed for divorce, but the state in which I lived is very conservative and has a waiting period before it can be finalized. The divorce was filed as uncontested, and I will be paying child support while also staying in his life. I am selling our house and she is moving to a state close by where my son will only be a couple of hours away. This option also makes her closer to family. Custody arrangements will be updated once she has moved. This has been hard emotionally because she has blamed me for ruining our chance as a family and our son's future. It feels manipulative since I no longer want to be with her and I've taken care of her our entire marriage. My wife still does not know about my girlfriend at the request of my girlfriend. As much as I want to integrate my girlfriend, this will take time to do, and I also felt like my wife doesn't have to know about her until everything has settled and the divorce finalized. It's been difficult for me being away from my son, but I do get to see him every day. I was there for his birth and 3 weeks afterwards. I will be taking leave again to spend more time with my son, take care of the house, the divorce, and to help get her and my son moved. I am glad this marriage is ending, and while it's tough right now with my son, the mutual goal is to have a co-parenting relationship. Despite the things my wife has said and her wanting to continue the marriage, I feel my son will be better off knowing what an actual loving relationship is. My girlfriend has been very supportive of me and I'm ready to move on in my life with her. Trying to get any help or legal advice in the state we got married has been a nightmare and has been overall negative to the choice I have already made. The marriage is dead, but I will be in my son's life. I do not agree with the empty values there. Any advice on how to ensure a healthy co-parenting relationship without a lawyer is needed. Thank you all again. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but you really should not have slept with your wife that last time without protection. This made everything much more complicated by giving her leverage. Commenter 2. Why would you have a child knowing she was an AH and that you weren't sure you were fitting back together? Poor child. Commenter 3. And now he wants to integrate his new girlfriend. Which I can only guess means bring her in as a third parent. These people had no business making a child. Update. My wife was served with divorce papers and hired a lawyer despite us agreeing on the 50-50 division of marital assets, child support, and limited alimony. She told me that because I was leaving her she wanted to make sure things were done fairly. She advised me to not get my own lawyer since we already agreed on stuff, but I got one to represent me anyway. I have recently seen my son again despite her efforts to keep me away from him. She has told me that she doesn't want to see me. After expressing how unfair that is, she agreed to coordinate with me to see him. I told her that I have been seeing someone and she said that she suspected it during our separation but that it didn't matter. She doesn't care that I love my new partner. She believes we can still recover the marriage even though I have moved on. I do not understand how she thinks this after her cheating throughout our marriage and me finding someone new. I told her I am upset that she can't take accountability for the breakdown of the marriage, hurting me, and our son. I explained to her why it wouldn't be a good idea to stay together if she truly thinks I cheated on her. She is only concerned with herself and the life I provided to her instead of caring about our son. She destroyed the last 7 years of my life with her and distorted how I saw myself. I tried to get over her infidelity the first time thinking it was a mistake and something we could work through. I'm not willing to give her a third or fourth chance. I want resolve, but every time the issue comes up she says something that feels manipulative. I will post a final update when we get there. Comments. Commenter 1. The only thing you and your soon-to-be ex-wife should be discussing is the care of your son. By engaging her, you are setting yourself up to be manipulated and trapped, just as you were trapped by the pregnancy. Sorry to have to say this, but you were really stupid to get yourself into that position. Ever heard of condoms? You knew this woman had been with other men, yet you had unprotected sex with her. That was stupid, so you are not without blame for those 7 years and in fact, all the rest of your child's life. The fact that you would even ask whether you're the AH for wanting to leave reveals your very real problem with logic and common sense. Commenter 2. I could honestly understand how she could manipulate you into discussing other things with you, but I am still not trusting you fully on this, as you were stupid enough to make a baby with her after knowing that she cheated. Well, now that lawyers are involved, I think you should ask your lawyer to communicate with her for you, with the pretext that it will be easier in your divorce, so that she won't have a problem with this. I would suggest you to not help her move, as it can very well be used against you in court if she plans to make a false case against you. And it would set up a wrong example for the future where she will always expect you to help with her move. Commenter 3. She cheats repeatedly, gets a lawyer, and then says you shouldn't get one. That's hilarious. Good luck, man. Commenter 4. OP, get your own lawyer. Commenter 5. YATH for not filing divorce before all of this culminated. As a divorcee, it really isn't that hard to file if you have intentions of moving on. Commenter 6. NTA, foolish maybe but NTA. Please listen to your lawyer and have everything in writing. This is going to define how and when you can interact with your son. Communicate with your soon-to-be ex via text only. Stories number 9. Aita for not defending my BL for missing the birth of his daughter even though I missed the birth of mine. So, my wife, 31F, and I, 29M, have 2 kids, our older son and younger daughter. My BL, Josh, 26M, has just had a baby girl with his partner, Brad. On the day my daughter was born 2 years ago, I was with my other BL, Dan, also 29M, when he was hit by a car. Understandably, he was in bad shape and I called an ambulance and his parents told me my wife was in labor. My wife told me over the phone to go with Dan to the hospital and that she'd be fine. She was more worried for Dan than anyone. We were both at different hospitals, my wife at the local hospital and Dan and I at a bigger city hospital, and it culminated in me missing my daughter being born while I stayed with Dan so he wasn't alone and I could keep everyone updated. Dan ended up making a full recovery with some physio and my daughter was born with no complications and I met her when she was a few hours old. Now, Josh and Brad had a baby due in late August but Josh had a vacation with his friends booked for July. Note, it was a vacation within the country and within COVID restrictions. Brad asked him not to go so close to the baby being born and I also advised him not to go, but he chose to anyway as he thought he has enough time. Evidently, he did not. Brad went into labor while he was gone and his daughter was born without him there. Like my case, it was a few hours before he could get back to meet her. The entire family is fuming at him because we all told him not to go on the vacation. He asked for my support because he thought I would understand, and I told him it's a completely different scenario and that I had no choice, and more importantly, my wife's permission. Apparently, he and his friends all believe that we, but more specifically me, because I should get it, are AHs because it wasn't his choice to miss the birth, because she was born preemie. I think he's the AH because there's a huge difference between the reasons I couldn't be there versus his reasons. I seriously don't get his logic, so I'm asking you guys for some more perspective. Aita. Edit. I didn't put this in the post to avoid any off-topic questions or transphobes, but Josh's partner is a trans man, not a wife. Edit 2. I keep getting asked this, so baby was 5 to 6 weeks early. Edit 3. Wow, this made it to Twitter. I'm amazed. People over there are getting mixed up and the Twitter account I made has been locked, so just to clarify, my wife has 2 brothers, called Dan and Josh. They are brothers, not in a relationship. Josh's partner is unnamed because as I said, I tried to avoid gender. Edit 4, last edit, I promise. I've gone back and named Josh's partner, Brad, to hopefully clear things up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. He clearly didn't have his priorities straight. If he chooses to go on a vacation when his pregnant partner is asking him not to, he is already an AH. He is just trying to use you as a shield. Reply, his logic was that the vacation was booked pre-baby, so he should still go, which still seems stupid to me. Oh, and I don't want to nitpick but Josh's partner is a trans man. I just didn't gender him in the post because I didn't want to attract off-topic questions or transphobes. Commenter 2, info, how long was he supposed to be away for and what day of him being gone did the partner go into labor? Reply, I think it was a week-long trip. He left on Sunday morning and his partner was in labor by Thursday night Friday morning. Commenter 3, NTA for sure. Especially because his partner is a trans man. I am cis, but as far as I understand childbirth for a trans man can be incredibly stressful and dysphoric. Not to mention everything else that can go wrong. Reply, yeah, his partner was really worried about how his previous HRT would affect the pregnancy and baby and his dysphoria was pretty bad. The doctor said that the HRT shouldn't affect it, but you know how pregnant people are for worrying about stuff like that. Commenter 4, he chose to go on a vacation knowing the risks, so he did choose to miss the birth of his child. I'm so sorry his partner had to go through that alone. I hope he had family there to support him. Reply, he did, rest assured. My wife and I, her parents and his parents too. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to have your fingers crushed by someone in labor too. OOP clarifies on if Dan is his wife's brother and how she told him to be with Dan at the time of accident. Reply, yeah, Dan is her brother. She wanted me to stay with him because there was a decent possibility we could have lost him and she wanted someone to be with him just in case. Just a little different to going on a lad's holiday, IMO. How did Brad feel about Josh going on holiday? Reply, pissed off and upset with Josh. He was really upset when he realized Josh couldn't come back in time. Commenter 5, there are so many increased risks for complications in trans male births. I'm surprised the OBGYN didn't bash your BL over the head. Any time after month 7 his ass should have stayed at home. Where did he go that was so damn important? OOP, lad's trip to Scotland, you know, something clearly more important than his pregnant partner. I'm not sure on COVID restrictions in Scotland, honestly. Update. Well, I wasn't expecting the response on my last post. I thought some of you might like an update and a couple of people on Twitter requested it. It's a happy ending, you'll be glad to hear. I did send Josh this post and he admitted that he fucked up. Brad has reported to me that Josh has well and truly repented. Their baby girl is now 4 weeks old and Josh has been on night duty since she was a week old. He apologized to Brad for not being there for him, and to me, for dragging me into it. Both of us forgave him, and it seems everything will be okay. Their daughter is a happy, healthy little girl and a very vocal one at that. She's apparently a big fan of yelling at her dads and not sleeping, so Josh is certainly receiving his karma. Unfortunately, she's yet to meet her cousins and most of the family thanks to COVID, but we receive plenty of video calls and photos. Brad also saw the post, and thanked everyone for their congratulations and support. He's recovering well at home and he's almost ready to start binding again as well as slowly returning to taking HRT. I'm sure some of you will be disappointed to hear that Josh has been forgiven, but that's just the way it goes. My niece will grow up in a happy family with 2 dads who love her, and hopefully Josh will never be so dumb again. Relevant comments. OOP clarifies on the meanings of binding and HRT. Reply. Binding is the practice of flattening down the breasts with a special type of vest to make them appear non-existent. HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is injecting oneself with testosterone, for trans men, to give them more masculine features, or estrogen, for trans women, to give them more feminine features. Hope this helps. OOP on his new niece's health progress after her premature birth during the pandemic. Reply. She was able to go home after 1.5 weeks due to COVID infection risk in the NICU ward as she was able to support her own breathing. I'm obviously not a doctor, but they made the call to send her home so she wasn't at risk of exposure. It's probably not normal protocol, but these are not normal times, my friend. I'm honestly not sure if it was the NICU, as I've never had to experience a preemie baby myself, both of mine were full term. And I did mention many times in my last post that she is a fat little thing. My wife's family does have a history of heavy babies, so that may explain it. Again, I'm just the uncle so I don't know every single in and out of her case. All I know specifically is that I was told she was sent home after 1.5 weeks to prevent the risk of catching COVID and they were told to isolate. What did OOP do to get Josh take his responsibility and made it right with Brad? Reply. It was actually my suggestion for him to volunteer for night duty as a means of apology. I'll never understand fathers who don't share their parental responsibilities equally. Why have children if you don't want to care for them? By the way, thank you so much for the award. I'm very grateful. OOP on his history with his wife's family and how healthy their relationships are. Reply. I do love that about my wife's family. I've been a de facto member since I was 11, when I met Dan, her brother, and started dating my wife at 13, so I still really respect the amount of accountability and conflict resolution they go through as a family unit. We claim responsibility for our idiots, and we love them. Her parents are now at the point where they say they have 5 kids, their actual children, my wife, Dan and Josh and then me and Brad. Most of my friends think it's odd that my core friendship circle consists of my wife, her 2 brothers and 1 brother's partner, but it really just makes spending Christmas together really freaking easy. OOP shared a surprise. Reply. Oh, there's no doubt about it. If you can keep a secret, and because I'm absolutely dying to tell someone, my wife is actually 2 months pregnant with baby number 3. I can already sense how close they'll be with editor's note, Josh and Brad's baby. Stories number 10. My 46F, BF, 38M, won't let me end the relationship. How do I get out of this? My boyfriend James refuses to let me end the relationship. We've been together for a little over a year and living together since November. Before we moved in together things were good. We lived in different areas, so most of our time together was over weekends. We got along well, talked often, phone and texts, did things together, met each other's families, etc. If any issues arose we talked about them and worked it out. Which is why we decided to move in together. That's when things changed. After moving in together he started becoming more and more clingy. Wanting to spend every available minute together. He started staying home a lot. I work from home. We all of a sudden were constantly together. It started to become an issue. But when I tried to talk to him about it, it was my fault he was being that way. I wasn't giving him quality time, because being in the same room with someone isn't being together. Just occupying the same space. So I made it a point to give him the one-on-one, without distractions daily. It got worse. He started throwing tantrums. We'll get invited to go somewhere and last minute he'll decide he doesn't want to go but says it's fine if I do. I won't be gone 30 minutes when he'll start texting me and he'll text non-stop the whole time. If I stop answering I get messages that will say things like, I won't be here when you get back, or, you're not going to like what you find when you do get back. Then when I do get back, doesn't matter if I come back right away or hours later, he's crying and telling me how neglectful and dismissive I am of his feelings. At first I listened and apologized, tried to be more mindful. But then his insecurities started. He started questioning if there was someone else. He said it was his insecurities, nothing I was doing, but it's better to voice them and have my reassurance than to just let it fester. That makes sense the first time, maybe the second time, not the 15th time. We started arguing, cause when exactly do I have time for someone else? We are never apart for more than 10 minutes. It just got worse. He started arguments over nothing. Nothing would be going on, nothing would happen, he'd just come in the room yelling. He's read my journals, he either goes through my phone or has installed spyware on it. He questions me about things I've written in the journal or text messages. Then tried to lie and say that he read it over my shoulder. This week has been the worst yet. We were out for dinner, he decided it was the appropriate time to discuss things in our relationship. In a very public, intimate dinner setting. We had been having a good day, no arguing, both enjoying the day, laughing not 5 minutes before this. I was immediately uncomfortable and very much on guard. I don't like airing my dirty laundry and he knows this. He's insisting on talking about it right then. I said it wasn't the place or time. He doesn't stop. I'm not engaging. After a few minutes of this he decides we need to leave because my demeanor is making him look bad. Everyone can see that something is wrong and it's making him look bad. We got up and left, without eating a meal that we'd already paid for. On the way home, I started to quietly cry and he started yelling. He was driving erratically and too fast, I told him to slow down. He slammed on the brakes, from 77 to full stop in the middle of the interstate. Twice. We are lucky we didn't cause an accident and hurt other people. He wouldn't let me out. This went on the whole 2-hour ride home. I ended it that night. Told him it's over. I'm not doing this anymore. That car ride was the last straw. He refuses to leave. Says if I want him out I'll have to evict him. He begs, he cries, he takes my keys so I can't leave, he threatens to kill himself. I don't want to go to my aunt's because she doesn't need the drama. I have no other family close. I have nowhere else to go. I can start the eviction process but that takes a month or longer. He just keeps saying he can get better. I don't care if he can. I don't know what to do. Am I really gonna have to deal with this until I can evict him? The police here won't do anything cause he hasn't physically assaulted me. I tried a civil no contact, judge said the same thing. I called a lawyer, same thing. Until he physically assaults me there's nothing they can do to help me. How do I handle this? Edit, clarification, I've been married once. He was abusive, was sleeping with his first wife behind my back. Once my divorce was final, 2014, he remarried first wife. She died less than a year later under mysterious circumstances. 2 years after the divorce he died of a massive heart attack. He has a son that I raised for years, that is 17 now. My boyfriend died in 2017. He fell asleep while driving home from work, graveyard shift, crossed the center line and hit a semi head-on. Steering column was pushed into his chest, broke his ribs, rib punctured his heart. He was pronounced at the scene. He was a mile from home. The next one was in 2018, he cheated and an alcoholic. We split up October of 2023. I met current BF, in December of 2023. I know not much time between last two. Also, I'm not questioning if I should get out of relationship. Just how to handle this until I can get him out of my house. I own my home. So there is no landlord to speak of. I've called the police, a lawyer, and my county judge. All day since he hasn't physically assaulted me that there is nothing they can do to help. Comments. Commenter 1. Next time he threatens to hurt himself, call the cops. He's not sorry, he won't change. You're in danger and need to act like it. It's not drama, it's your safety. Talk to your aunt and your landlord. Commenter 2. The quickest way to evict would be to get a protective order and request he be forced to leave the place. They don't get 30-day notice. If he's a threat, he gets booted immediately. There's probably exceptions to that, but at minimum it's worth trying. Reply, I own the home. Will they do anything if he just denies it? Won't it just be my word against his, in which case it's a civil matter and they won't do anything. Commenter 3. If he's threatening to hurt himself, have him committed involuntarily. Commenter 4. Taking your keys is kidnapping. Start the eviction process and document everything. Keep calling the cops every time he does shit like this. He really could get you both killed pulling a stunt like that on the highway. Just because he hasn't hit you doesn't mean he's not an abuser. Contact the domestic violence hotline and get an advocate. Update. It's been 4 months and I thought I'd post an update. I took some of the advice and filed the eviction a week after my original post. I switched bedrooms and placed locks on my bedroom and office doors. I tried to stay calm and not engage in arguments. Did my best to keep things smooth until eviction. He was not having it. He would go from crying, to talking calmly, to yelling, daily. The more I refused to engage, the more volatile he became. The more aggressive he was. If I didn't respond to him within 5 minutes, text or in person, I was ignoring him. Didn't matter if I was working, driving, doing stuff around the house, or just sitting at home. It was exhausting and I was just counting the days. Approximately 1 week until eviction, he was sending me texts while sitting in same room as me. I finally told him I was doing to answer another message. He sent 3 more long texts. I set my phone down and got to leave the room. He attacked me before I got to the doorway. He knocked me to the ground, slammed my head and arm against the floor, tried to force himself on me, and then headbutt me, gave me 2 black eyes. After this he took my phone, loaded his things into the car, and left. This happened on a Friday evening. My cousin and a friend came to stay with me for the weekend. That night my friend found a hidden camera in my fireplace. I took pictures and disconnected it. We spent the rest of the weekend looking for others. We didn't find any more but did find a GPS tracker on my car. We also found my basement door, that leads to outside, had been tampered with. Also, my basement door, leading into the house, has a chain lock. Well, the bracket that is attached to the doorframe had the screws clipped short and then pushed back into the frame. So that it would hold but with just a bit of or pressure wouldn't hold. Making the chain lock useless. I documented and took pictures of it all. He continued to call and make threats all weekend. He said he went back to his hometown but I don't think he did. I think he sat in his car watching my house all weekend. The following Monday I filed a no-contact order through the courts. That same day he was arrested on his way back to his hometown, unrelated charges. I was granted the no-contact order. He is still in jail. The last couple months have been a struggle for me emotionally. I didn't realize how much of a toll all this had taken on my mental. I've been looking into therapy. Couldn't hurt any at this point. My physical injuries healed up, no permanent damage. Just swelling and bruising, that's it. I've just been working on me. He's still in jail and I'm unsure of when he'll get out. But I'll be notified when he does get released. Thank everyone for all the advice. I really appreciate those that answered and gave advice. Comments. Commenter 1. Just want to chime in as a former law enforcement worker, you should move. See if you can talk to a victim's advocate and they can help you find resources to move. Sometimes there are victim funds that pay for moving expenses. Even if you have to move into a DV shelter, you should not be anywhere he can find you. This kind of man is fully capable of killing you. Make sure law enforcement has all the details on the assault, your injuries, the trackers, everything. Because if someday you disappear, it will be his fault. Stay safe, keep vigilant, and I'm so sorry this man happened to you. Commenter 2. I just want to add, if you do buy a new house, see if you can set up the ownership as an LLC. That way your name won't be a matter of public record. Commenter 3. Please move, this has all the hallmarks of domestic homicide, I'm sorry to say. Please move. Stories number 11. Aita for telling my mom her husband is just the guy she cheated on my dad with. My parents divorced when I, 27F, was 10 because my mom had an affair. How do I know? Because her affair partner turned husband was also married and his wife at the time showed up at our house after the affair came out both sides and yelled it all over the place. She had to be removed by the cops and she showed up a few more times over the next 2 years. My mom blamed my dad for me finding out until I was 14 and I told her I wasn't deaf and could hear that woman outside our house and I wasn't too young to understand what it meant. My relationship with mom was strained by her affair and I don't give a fuck about her husband. He never had kids and tried to play the dad role but I shut him out and put him in his place whenever he tried, by reminding him I have a dad and he doesn't get to take me from dad like he took mom. And yes, I know nobody can take another person. It was my mom's choice and her fault too. But still. It felt extra insulting to try and play parent when he helped destroy my family and dad's marriage to mom. My dad died when I was 19. It was a very tense time in my relationship with Mom because I didn't tell her. She found out after Dad's funeral. A part of me was glad because I did not want her to come to the funeral and I certainly didn't want her there with her husband. My mom was hurt and acted like I owed it to her to let them come, so they could be there for me. I told her their support was not wanted right then. Especially not for losing Dad. Even still she believed that her husband would become the father figure I no longer had with Dad gone. And they both expected he would be given father of the bride honors at my wedding. Instead I asked my grandpa and Mom blew a fuse when she found out. She asked me what the hell I was thinking and her husband has been there, raising me, since I was 10 and he is more to me than just some random guy. I told her she was partly right and he's just the guy she cheated on my dad with. Nothing more. My mom said it was a childish and vindictive way to describe him and that I need to get the fuck over it and appreciate how hard he tried with me. She said it's like I'm trying to punish them for the affair when it was nothing to do with me. I told her this isn't a punishment, this is consequences. And she has to live with them. Same way he does. She's still going crazy about me saying that and I don't feel bad but question if maybe I was a bit of an for telling her that maybe. Stories number 12. Aita for reporting a crying baby to HR. I am second guessing my decision to report to HR. There is a person in my building who brings their infant to work with her, and it cries and screams and fusses, as babies do. She does not close her office door but leaves it open like an echo chamber resounding through the halls. It is incredibly difficult to focus on anything at all with a crying baby in your ear. Closing my door helps a bit, but we have a culture of leaving doors open to signal that you're available for an impromptu meeting. I leave mine open about half of the time. I decided today that something's gotta give. I do not know her and we do not work for the same department. I work in an office with a lot of touchy personalities and egos, and I was not confident that I could simply ask her to close her door, without setting off WWI either with her individually, or between our co-located departments. Instead I sent a very nicely worded email to HR asking if someone can send her an anonymous request to please kindly keep her door closed while she has her baby with her. I assumed the woman has some kind of reasonable accommodation for having the baby at work, but now I'm second guessing myself. What if she doesn't, and isn't supposed to have the baby with her? Did I just tell on her? I am feeling quite sheepish about it at the moment. Should I have tried to resolve this myself? HR has already responded with an emphatic, good job in bringing this to HR, as this is an HR issue, and not something to handle yourself, but I still feel like maybe I'm the here. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. You didn't march in there and say, get that baby out of here. You didn't slam her door shut mid-wail. You didn't CC her boss or post on Slack like, hey, whose baby is this? You went through the exact channel you're supposed to. HR even gave you a gold star and said, yes, this is our thing. That's not tattling. That's procedure. That's literally what they're paid to handle. Commenter 2. You have said it all, when the baby is crying is hard to focus, she did the right thing by reporting it to HR. NTA. Commenter 3. Agreed. Hijacking to add that if OP or anyone else with this door culture wants to still show they're open to people approaching but enjoy the noise blocking of the door, they could try a double-sided sign hung on the door. Side A, green, feel free to knock and come in to ask stuff, I just have the door shut for noise blocking. Side B, red, focus time, please wait or Slack email for non-urgent stuff. Commenter 4. If she was bringing the baby to work on the down low, you'd think she'd be a bit more proactive about making sure it wasn't drawing attention, i.e. shutting her office door. Update. I really struggled with whether this was the right thing to do. I was thinking, what circumstances must a person be in that they think bringing their baby to work is the best option? I thought about coming back to HR to sort of cancel the complaint. But then she just kept bringing the crying baby in and it would be silent for a couple hours and then it would go off for an hour, or 10 minutes or 40, you just never knew how long it would go on. Or how frequent. Every 2 minutes. Every 15. Even an hour would pass and then it would start up again. I noticed every time I walked past her office, she was engaged with the baby, and not her work. I noticed she only comes in from about 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., and leaves for 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the day to walk the baby around outside. I noticed how shot my productivity is, even with the door closed. I realized that I am getting paid to do a job out of taxpayers' money, we all are, and we are all underperforming because this one person is bringing their infant to work. HR took it very seriously and even when I backpedaled, said they are required to look into it when children are being brought to the campus. Today they are nowhere to be heard, her door is closed, and I got more done this morning than I had in 3 days last week on my project. I feel I did the right thing, and now that I've noticed her patterns, I think this person is unfairly taking advantage of their relatively unsupervised job in more ways than one. I won't be saying a thing about all that, though. I'm just glad the crying is gone. Comments. Commenter 1. Unless you are working at a daycare, she has no business bringing a baby to the office. It is a huge liability. Commenter 2. It's allowed at my work but I felt I couldn't focus. Totally heartbreaking making that decision but I haven't brought him in to work with me. I know I couldn't focus and nobody else could either. Commenter 2. 20-some years ago in a cube farm with waist-high walls that was more akin to the galley rowing in Ben-Hur, one of the women brought her granddaughter in to work with her. She had the little girl sit under her desk without speaking. When I realized the little girl was under there I said something to boss, not trying to narc more along the lines of WTF. He put a stop to it. I think if she had brought the little girl in once and said childcare issue, but it was apparently a repeat occurrence. Poor little girl. Stories number 13. I, 46F, have hurt my daughter, 16F, by giving her friend, 16F, a few books. My daughter's, 16F, friend came out a few weeks ago to her family and friends. It has put a bit of a strain on their relationship. I don't know what is going on between them but I try not to pry. She, 16F, visited us this week. My husband and I read a lot and have a huge collection of books. We let her pick out a few books. She picked a few thrillers, some LGBTQ+ memoirs and the like. She was happy about it. She posted about it on Instagram. My daughter saw it. She is angry with us for picking her friend's side and that she wanted to read those books. Which is surprising as she is not a person who reads a ton of books. Something is really bothering her and she is lashing out. I feel a bit guilty as it is clear something is going on between them and I feel like this act hurt our daughter even though it was meant to show support to her friend. My daughter is constantly making snide remarks about us preferring her friend over her. My husband is just ignoring it and wants us to ignore it too and let her deal with this issue on her own while I have been trying to talk to her about it. TLDR, gave a few books to my daughter's friend to show support but my daughter has taken it as choosing her friend's side in an issue. Top comment. Commenter 1. It isn't about the books. She may still need time to process. There may also have been something awkward involved in the coming out that you don't know about, e.g. the friend has a crush on your daughter, or she could feel hurt that she didn't know sooner, etc. There are a lot of options for what might have happened, and unless your daughter decides to tell you about it, there's not much you can do. When she makes snide comments I recommend, I didn't know you were fighting, you never told me, and, when you're ready to talk about it, I'm here, but you know what you're saying isn't true. However, your husband is also right. They will figure it out themselves, they are teenagers, this is what they do. You don't need to interfere with their business, your only job is to remind her that her comments to you are unacceptable. Update. I found the perspectives and guidance I received really helpful. I decided to just spend some time with her. She loves to bake and we baked together and we had some movie nights. Her comments melted away and she became happier. We were baking yesterday when she came out to me. I didn't make a big deal out of it as I felt she didn't want me to. I just told her I loved her before continuing to bake as if nothing happened. We did have a conversation later on. She told me that she and her friend had been together. Scary, how well kids can hide things. Her girlfriend wanted to come out but she didn't and it had strained their relationship. It seems, they had a fight before we gave her the books to her ex-girlfriend and that had hurt her. Their relationship is in the limbo and she doesn't want to come out to the world right now. My husband ordered a small pride flag to keep in her room. The world is a bit crazy right now and we want her to have a space where she can be herself. TLDR, my daughter came out to me, her friend was actually her girlfriend and they had a fight. Top comments. Commenter 1. Captain Bloody Obvious says, you're good parents. Commenter 2. Pregnant right now, and my hope is to be the kind of parent that my kids' friends can trust like this, and to be so compassionate and attentive as to know when things are off and have a relationship where they can come to me with hard things. It's not always simple or easy, but OP handled this so well on all fronts. Really inspiring. Stories number 14. If I refuse to transfer shares in an apartment I inherited to my aunt according to a deal she had with my late mother 16 years ago. My aunt has recently approached me regarding a share of an apartment I inherited from my late mother 16 years ago. My aunt apparently discussed buying my mom out of her share of the apartment 16 years ago and according to my aunt, they performed a valuation of the apartment and had agreed on a sale. Approximately a year or so after this discussion took place, my mother died. Neither her will, nor the executor of her estate, contains any mention of the apartment. Nor is there any written contract or anything else written down regarding the details of the deal. My aunt approached me shortly after the death of my mother, stating only the records she would require from me for the transfer of my inherited share, but mentioned that she currently didn't have the funds to buy me out. In the intervening years, my aunt has brought up the apartment a few times, telling me that we finally need to sort it out, and that she owed me money. No specifics were ever mentioned and the last written email I have is now over a decade old. My aunt now wishes to finally have the share transferred, however wants to buy me out of my inherited share according to the valuation of 16 years ago. The current market value of the apartment has however gone up by about a factor of 4 in the intervening years. I would like to sell my share of the apartment, however find it unfair that my aunt wants to pay me what the share was 16 years ago rather than its current value. My aunt states that she had a deal with my mother all those years ago and that I should honor that deal. Wibta if I stood my ground and demand to be paid according to the current market value. A contributing factor to consider is that my aunt now has big health problems and is facing retirement with very little in terms of retirement benefits. Stories number 15. Aita for finally snapping and demanding my stuff back from my husband's sister. Okay, so this has been building up for months. I didn't even want to write this, but I'm so sick of feeling like I'm the crazy one when I know I'm not. A few months ago, my husband's younger sister came over and asked to borrow a bunch of my things. Hair tools, a bag I use almost every day, and a couple of storage boxes I was organizing stuff in. Nothing major, I thought. She promised she'd bring them back the next week. Well, she didn't. At first, I let it go. I get it, people forget. So I casually reminded my husband, and he told her. Still nothing. Weeks passed. I kept reminding him, and he kept telling her. Still nothing. Like she's just pretending none of this ever happened. I started asking him more seriously like, why can't she just return my stuff? And every time he'd say, I already told her, what else do you want me to do? Maybe actually do something. Not just act like a middleman robot with no follow-through. Finally, I had enough. I messaged her directly calm at first. I said something like, hey, could you return the things you borrowed when you get the chance? And you know what she did? Read it. Ignored it. That's when I snapped. I told her straight up, it's been too long. I want my stuff back. Not next week. Not when you feel like it. Now. I even said it's really frustrating how she acts like she's entitled to keep things that aren't hers. I was blunt, yeah. But I didn't cuss her out or anything. Now suddenly everyone's acting like I overreacted. My husband says I should have just let it go or waited for the right time to talk to her. She texted me something like, wow okay didn't think you were that pressed, and blocked me. Pressed? Girl, I just want my stuff. So now I'm sitting here wondering was I really out of line for calling her out after months of silence and disrespect? Or was this just me standing up for myself after being walked on too many times? Stories number 16. Parents cancelled my F17, sisters, F16, sweet 16 after an dinner argument. My parents are very religious and are leaders in their church, and we've had past arguments based on religion. They are also very politically opinionated, and this argument involved both things. A previous argument was mom disliking when my sister and I took dinner to our rooms whenever they were watching political content while eating dinner. My parents wanted to do a family dinner with some church friends before her sweet 16 for something more intimate on her actual birthday. The sweet 16 would have been shortly after on a weekend, and they took her to a restaurant. But while we were there, mom began talking about Trump to one of her friends, and my sister, Laura, asked her not to talk about politics which mom didn't like. Mom told her that she was being disrespectful and that she could talk about whatever she wanted. But when Laura told her that they were there for her birthday, she said it didn't matter and told her to mind her business. Laura then asked if she could sit somewhere else, but mom told her no, and that made Laura upset. She said she was tired of hearing about Trump, they watch his clips on YouTube videos about him at home too, and that she didn't get why she supported him too. But when mom's friend asked why she felt that way, Laura said he didn't act like a Christian and called him a false prophet who was tricking Christians by pretending to be one while committing adultery and other crimes. But when mom's friend said that you vote for the party's values instead of the candidate, Laura said that shouldn't give him a pass before mom finally changed the subject. But on the ride back, mom scolded her for acting ungrateful, and that she'd talk to dad about her behavior before telling her a few days later that she wasn't getting a sweet 16 anymore for embarrassing them in front of her friend. We already had people invited, but my mom has since cancelled the venue too. I tried to tell dad that it wasn't fair to cancel her party when she already invited friends, along with how mom shouldn't have taken over her birthday, but he wouldn't listen or change his stance when we talked. I asked Laura if she wanted to do something else with me instead, but she said no and mostly kept to herself since, and they've confronted her about it in her room too. I just want to ask if I can do anything to cheer her up or support her more than telling her I agree with her stance, which I already did, because I don't know if there's anything else I can do at the moment, and she seems really down about the whole thing. Edit, Lauren's birthday already passed. Her birthday was the day we went to a restaurant with church friends because it fell on a weeknight, and her sweet 16 was gonna be on a later weekend that worked better for everyone to attend. I love how she's strong enough to stand up to them on her morals, but also afraid that it'll cost her college because our parents are currently paying for mine and hers, and they were willing to cancel her sweet 16 over something as stupid as talking politics at her birthday when she asked not to. They already canceled invitations they sent out along with the venue too. Laura also doesn't want to do any activities in place of the sweet 16 at the moment because she's embarrassed with how her parents canceled her friends' invitations. Update: I wanted to add some closure to my post because I received a lot of great advice. A few people suggested telling her friends what happened at the restaurant, and arranging a surprise party separate from my parents for her. However, after putting myself in her shoes, I decided against it because it'd be wrong for me to control the narrative of how she wants, or doesn't want, to tell her friends. However she chooses to tell them is her choice along with any alternative celebrations she wants to have, and I wouldn't like it if someone told my friends about something personal that embarrassed me, since she was embarrassed with how our mom told her off at the restaurant along with telling her friends' parents that the party was cancelled. It's not my place to control her narrative, so I instead went to her room and asked if she wanted me to treat her to ice cream instead, but she said no and that she only wanted to talk. So we talked in her room, and she vented to me, and I'll mention a few details. The restaurant was not the first time she got into an altercation with them about politics. There was a Sunday where the pastor of our church made a jab towards gays for whatever reason some time back, during Pride Month, and people in the congregation egged him on as he did. My sister, Laura, and I were not among them, were past the age of Sunday school and sit with our parents in church, and my sister called my parents out for it in the car. She said that his jab being the most enthusiastic moment reaction in the service epitomized what was wrong with modern-day Christianity. Too many Christians care about roasting gays instead of what Jesus was actually about, helping those in need out of love. But our parents argued that Christians are supposed to call out wrong when we see it, and that included gay marriage in their opinion. We touched on that briefly because Laura said that Trump's presidency exposed the hatred bottled up in many Christians by making them feel validated in voicing hatred brashly similar to Trump's brashness, and she said Christianity lost a lot of credibility because of him too. However, she also said that he exposed fake Christians, which was good because Jesus wasn't about hate. The last thing I'll mention is that Dad came to her room to reinforce that she was disrespectful at the restaurant, when all she asked was to not talk politics at dinner. But when she told him that Christians couldn't give Trump a pass for his crimes, some against the Ten Commandments, despite being a Republican conservative, Dad reinforced his belief in voting for the party instead of the candidate because Christians had to vote against gay rights and abortion that Democrats were for, and he even said he'd vote for Hitler *R if he was the Republican nominee too. Both of us have permanently lost respect for him because he basically admitted he would vote for any candidate regardless of actions if they champion conservative Christian views. My sister also decided not to have a party this year because she's not in the mood, and I respect that. She said she told her friends and that they respected her wishes not to do anything too. She also promised to take me up on ice cream in the future. But if we do, it'll just be the two of us because she doesn't want any more than that. Stories number 17. My 30F husband, 30M, has been making sperm donations behind my back after finding out I was infertile and he now has a son. My husband and I have been married for 3 years. After trying for over a year, we found out I am infertile. I don't want to go into my condition, but we were advised there is a very low chance of me getting pregnant, and even if I did there is a high chance of a baby having serious issues. Consequently, we decided to not have children and neither us really want to adopt. He was extremely supportive when I found out and reassured me this would not affect our relationship. It seemed we were both on the same page regarding kids. However, after using his laptop, with his permission, I stumbled on an email from a sperm bank confirming he was a patient. After going down the rabbit hole, I discovered he has been making sperm donations for years. I then confronted him and he told me he has a 2-year-old biological son and wants to see him. I was shocked and felt awful as he never told me. He has known since he was born, as in my country it is the law for a donor to leave their information to be read by the child when they turn 18. He told me he wasn't truthful about him not wanting kids and made donations to assure he would have a child. Would everyone be in agreement this is justification for divorce? I feel betrayed and hurt, but I do really love him and we have had a great marriage up until now. Stories number 18. My coworker harasses me about my masculinity and DM'd my wife. I'm currently dealing with a work situation that I, 28M, need advice on. Before work I go to the gym about every other day. I'm hardly shredded, but I've gone enough that you can see my muscles when I come into work in short sleeves. I wouldn't describe myself as a gym bro or a gym rat, I really just go for my overall health. Anyways, I work in an office with maybe 25 to 30 people that work there. We mainly do business to business sales and supply, not really relevant to the story. Anyway, I get to work one day wearing a polo and a couple of girls and guys in the office were asking me if I had been working out recently and I told them that I had. It wasn't flirtatious or anything like that. I think they were just giving me a friendly compliment, plus I'm married. But as we're discussing me working out, my coworker Gary, 40 walks in. Gary is, a lot. He's one of those guys who constantly talks about how much he benches, his gains, and generally just tries to project this super intense, alpha male image. Which is annoying, but none of my business really. This is where the problem starts. Someone asked me what my max bench was. I told them honestly, and Gary, who was lurking nearby, scoffed loudly. He then proceeded to tell me, in front of like 5 other coworkers, that my number, 170, was pathetic and that I clearly wasn't a real man or an alpha. He then went on a tirade about how men need to be strong and dominate, etc., etc. It was super uncomfortable that I tried to just laugh it off and change the subject, but it didn't work. Since then, it's gotten worse. Every single day, Gary makes some kind of comment. If I'm getting coffee, he'll ask if I'm strong enough to lift the pot. If I'm walking to my desk, he'll flex and ask if I'm inspired yet to hit the weights like a real man. I've tried ignoring him, giving him short answers, even politely telling him to knock it off. Nothing works. He just laughs and says I need to grow a thicker skin. Then, this is where I start to lose my shit a little. My wife, 27F, texted me a screenshot yesterday. It was a DM from Gary. It was a picture of him flexing in the mirror with some ridiculous caption about being a true alpha, and how real women know what's up. Summarizing, but you get the sentiment. He'd somehow found her on social media and sent her this unsolicited picture and message. I was beyond furious. I wanted to march over to his desk and punch him, but I knew that would only make things worse. I'm starting to dread coming to work. It's constant, it's demeaning, it's making me feel genuinely small and uncomfortable, and now he's involving my wife. Am I overreacting to this? Is this just typical guy banter that I'm not getting? Should I just suck it up and ignore him, or is this actually something worth addressing with HR? I feel like if I tell HR it might just add fuel to the fire. But if I come down to his level and respond violently, I'll lose my job. Update, I'm going to take this to HR tomorrow. Thank you guys for letting me know the severity of this. Stories number 19. Aita for not caring that my siblings, grandparents, and I upset mom by taking all of dad's things when her husband moved in. My dad died 7 years ago. I, 17M, was 10 and my sisters were 17 and 18. 5 years ago my mom moved in her now husband. When she told us he was moving in, our grandparents, dad's parents, asked her what would happen with all of dad's things. She said she wanted to donate them or something. My grandparents said we'd take what we wanted. So my grandparents and sisters came over and mom didn't want anything, so we divided it up between all of us. My grandparents took the things I chose to their house to keep watch over it for me. My sisters didn't have the space where they were living for more than what they took. My mom had no actual problem with it at the time, it looked like. But after her husband moved and they talked about my dad's watch and he seemed disappointed it was gone. They didn't say it to me. But I still heard them. My mom ended up marrying her husband. My sisters and I aren't close to him. She wanted me to be more than them because I'm the youngest and still live at home. But he's her husband and he's not someone I see as a father figure or my parent, and mostly he doesn't try to be. My mom gave birth to my 2 half-siblings in the last 2 years and that changed things. She'd get upset that dad's stuff wasn't around anymore, and recently she asked my grandparents to let her take dad's stuff back. They told her she had freely let them take it all and they weren't about to see everything dad owned go to Goodwill. My mom asked me to let her take the box I had or some of it. She said she never should have let it all go and there were things she wanted to give her husband and younger kids. She said dad's watch would have been perfect for her husband. And dad's old blanket collection would have been great to share with the babies. I told her the watch was for dad, for me and my siblings, and it would be wrong as hell for her new husband to wear it. She told me it would be a sweet idea to show him acceptance, and I told her he'll never be my dad and will never get that kind of acceptance from me. I told her I accept him in other ways, but he's not my replacement dad or filling his shoes. And I said the blankets should stay being used for dad's future grandkids and stuff. Not kids he has no relationship with. She mentioned a few other things of dad's and got more and more upset about them not being here to give to the babies or use for the babies. Then she said we were all so cruel for taking everything when her husband was moving in. She said we didn't even give him a chance to be trusted, and it hurt her to know we'd rather hide away possessions like that than share them. She told me we really hurt her feelings when we did it. I asked her why she didn't pick things to keep and she told me it wasn't hurtful at the time. But now keeping them makes it seem like we're two families instead of one. I told her we sorta are. That her younger kids will never know dad and aren't his kids and will never be her husband's kids either. She said she didn't like it and we were like vultures. Since then she's irritable around me and she told me I should care about hurting her feelings. And that I should care that her husband was disappointed and felt like we all hated him before giving him a chance by taking the watch. And that the babies will grow up and feel like shit that we wouldn't share things with them. Then she brought it back to her feeling hurt and how I should care. Stories number 20. Aita for suing my, now former, friend. I, 28F, am filing this week to sue my now ex-friend, Veronica, 24F. About 7 months ago Veronica asked to move in with me and my boyfriend, who owns a 5-bed 3-bath house. We've known each other for a few years and had grown close. She even introduced herself to others as my BFF. My BF has rented out rooms before and since we had a vacancy we agreed to let her move in. There was no written lease, but we agreed via text that she'd pay $800 a month, utilities included, for a bedroom and private bath. Since she didn't have a job when she moved in, my BF allowed her to delay the first payment. But over 6 months, she cycled through 7 jobs, quitting each one for vague reasons like bad vibes. She made only one partial payment the entire time. Despite claiming she had no money, she was frequently going out, getting 90-minute massages, and taking long trips to meet up with men. We had a 3-week Europe trip planned for years and Veronica offered to care for my pets while we were away, despite me originally going to hire a pet sitter. I'm a zookeeper and take pet care seriously. I left clear instructions, supplies, and $100 cash for reptile food, asking her to keep receipts. She sent regular updates while we were gone, making it seem like everything was fine, but when we got back at 3 a.m., I was devastated. All my reptiles had no water, most of my fish were dead, the tank was filthy and overfed, and many supplies were missing depleted. I messaged her, upset but not rude, asking what happened. She responded defensively, saying I should be grateful and claiming she did a better job than anyone I would have paid. When I told her I spent 5+ hours cleaning and over $300 replacing things, she brushed it off, offering only to go to the store to replace the fish. She also only used about $40 of the $100 I gave her and never paid me back or replaced my fish. After that, she avoided me completely, only coming home late at night and staying in her room. Then one day I came home from work to find she had moved out without saying anything to me or my BF. She blocked me on all social media. We were shocked, but let it go, until I got a call from a friend, who had only met her once, saying Veronica had messaged him and my manager long rants calling me evil and saying she saw the light and needed to cut me off. I'm 4 months pregnant, and she even told my friend I should get an abortion. At that point, my boyfriend and I decided to sue her for the $4,800 in unpaid rent plus damages to the room bathroom. Most of our friends agree it's fair, but some think we're in the wrong since we were going to drop it until she started bad-mouthing me and because she's struggling financially. Stories number 21. Aita for telling my old boss I don't believe in loyalty and it's unreasonable to expect me not to quit for a better paid job. Worked at my first job for 6 years. They trained me from ground zero on everything. I had a great boss, fought for my promotions, etc. In those 6 years my salary doubled. Got an offer from a more prestigious company with better growth opportunities and double the salary. Edited. Maths are hard, thanks you automatic 691212. We're talking substantial money, $120K versus $250K. I quit without thinking twice, and thought it was more respectful not to ask my old boss to use any of his political capital to get me a match. He couldn't. Part of my new comp is stock in the new company and the salary is likely more than his pay. So I simply gave him my notice and explained my transition plan. Boss was truly devastated and very, very angry. We both stayed professional throughout the discussion, but it got heated and he questioned my loyalty as if it's a character flaw. I said my view is I paid him and the company back with my hard work, so we're at the very least even. Arguably they got a bargain deal because I could have jumped ship for more money 2 years ago. Edit, didn't say this last sentence out loud. Should I have handled any of this differently? My wife and some friends say I'm being rather cold and calculating. I should have shown more loyalty since the company gave me so much. I think it's disrespectful to assume I didn't give them anything less than enough in return. I know my worth and my contribution to the company's bottom line. I've seen people walked out of the door after 2 decades with a pink slip and no one shed a tear the morning after. I respect my old boss, but what the hell is loyalty to your job supposed to even mean? Edit. I can't possibly respond to everyone and read every comment, so if there's something super pressing you wanted to ask or share, feel free to DM and I may be able to answer. Thanks for the engagement and helpful insight everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I do think that you could have handled it better, just because this could bite you if you need to get a reference or something happens with your new job. This was one of those, "you're right but you shouldn't say it" situations. At the same time, that's only a pragmatic consideration, and from a manners standpoint you were fine. This is just old boomer mentality on your old boss part. Reply: thank you, can I ask you a blunt question? This being the internet and all, do you see a way to handle it better without being disingenuous? I come from a very blunt culture, Russia, and had pretty honest communication with my boss. When I am asked, "Aren't you being disloyal?" my first instinct is to directly answer the question as asked. I am fine if it's viewed as rude or cold in the eyes of an American, just curious if there's a middle ground I'm not thinking of that would allow me to stay true to my character without hurting feelings. Commenter 2. NTA: I've seen people walked out of the door after 2 decades with a pink slip. Yep, and your boss would have happily done this with you as well. You're talking about more than doubling your salary, and you usually only get that type of bump when you switch employers. My take is, if they wanted to keep you, they should have kept your salary competitive the whole time. I hope you did your due diligence though, more money doesn't make it a better place to work. Reply: thanks, in all fairness I know for a fact my old boss would have fought for me, but agree if it was between him and me, for example. I'm the one walking out the door. So I take the same approach, I'll put my family and our financial stability over him every day. The opportunity was too good to pass on either way. I'm fortunate to mostly like my new team, but I was offered a job with a fang of my profession, so even if I need to be absolutely miserable here for 2 years and then jump ship, it's worth it to pad the resume. Don't think I'll need to do the jump though. Editor's note: FANG stands for Facebook, now Meta Platforms, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, now Alphabet. Commenter 3. NTA: and I actually don't think you were cold either. I have myself, and friends, acted more grateful when giving notice even when it's totally untrue. Perhaps on your part, as you describe a great boss, you could have added in how much you enjoyed working with him and will miss him the team, but equally that can be reserved for your leaving party and isn't obligatory. The resignation meeting is usually just formality and businesslike, as you were. As you said about pink slips, businesses tend to appreciate you when you're more beneficial for them, but when you aren't anymore it's, don't let the door bump you on the way out. So please don't feel bad for being calculating. It's not calculating for looking out for number one, when the business will do the same, nice manager or not. It's pragmatic. If you'd like to smooth things over with the old boss, then invite him for a drink or something, he'll have calmed down by now. If he hasn't, then you tried and he's behaving like a child. Just because you train someone doesn't mean you own them. Hope the new job treats you well. Reply: thank you, lots of good points. I obviously was very direct about how much I appreciated his support in my team company the past few years. I'll follow your advice about taking him out for a couple, socially distant, drinks. I have no ill will towards him and hope we can rebuild at least a part of that relationship. As others have pointed out, I could have handled certain aspects better, so maybe I will get a chance to explain to him why I thought a clean cut was actually more respectful of him in this instance, even if I was wrong at the end of the day. Commenter 4. Info: did you just quit immediately or did you do the responsible and professional thing of putting in your 2-week notice? Because it can sometimes be pretty hard to find a suitable replacement for a highly trained position, since you mentioned that they trained you from the ground up. Not giving your workplace a heads up about you leaving is just rude. My overall thought towards that is, why make someone's life harder than it needs to be? Reply: of course I put a notice in, otherwise I'd have no question in my mind I'm being a dick. I do think it's superfluous at best to hand it in TBH. They won't be able to find a replacement in a few months at least. And all my manuals were written ages ago. It's more about my skill set and quality of work. Someone external coming in with a comparable skill set will ask for 170 to 200k at the very least. Update: probably a bit mundane, but some folks wanted an update. Took my old boss out for a beer to not burn that bridge, as some of you have suggested. We sat in an outside pub garden for all the health-conscious Redditors. Both had a great time. A couple months helped us cool off, and getting together turned into a lot of reminiscing about the good old times together. It also got us taking even more frankly about the things that would be viewed too political if we were still employed by the same company. I think I may have kept my mentor in my life after all. I apologized for perhaps ending things with my old job too abruptly. He said I couldn't have left at a worse time, but then again there was no better or worse time to lose me, and to not sweat it. Said he understands why I took the job, respects my reasoning for trying to protect him from using up the goodwill he built to save me as an employee, get me a match, and that giving him an earlier heads up might have given him more time to find a replacement, but didn't make a huge difference at the end of the day. It's all water under the bridge now. The company already hired my replacement for about 25% more than I was paid. He didn't disclose the exact amount, but that was the implication. He was blunt: I wouldn't have gotten that much even with the offer I had. He also said his priorities in life are very different and he's happy where he is due to personal reasons and work-life perks, but that I need to seek what is the right answer for me. Said he's be happy to work with me again if an opportunity presents itself, and I echoed that sentiment. Who knows, we may end up on the same team one way or another. A few things I took away from the Reddit discussion and our talk with the old boss. Look out for yourself. Your company is not the same thing as your boss. There are structural obstacles to fight against, and because you're loyal to one person doesn't mean the company as a whole feels that way about you. I don't regret my choice. Be good to people who were good to you and do right by them, if that doesn't go against number one. I wasn't a dick in my final interview and thanked my old boss profusely. It made a difference, but obviously he was still upset in the moment. Which leads me to 3. People are people. They are imperfect and have lapses of judgment. If you see them as such, you will find it easier to move on and move up in your professional life. Good luck you all, and thanks again for your input. Sometimes consulting Reddit does put a good spin on a trivial story. Edit, apologies but I'm going to struggle to respond to every award and comment individually. I've tried to answer all the questions though. Thanks for your support and good luck with your careers. Final comments. Commenter 1. Good ending for you. It's superfluous to say at this point, but you are NTA. Perhaps your ex-boss reconsidered burning his bridges with you. Happy as he may be with his current situation, things change on a dime these days and he might end up with you as a boss someday. I can't pinpoint when in history that loyalty became an entitlement for some people. Your ex-boss certainly did not start his working career in the position or at the pay he now holds, so why did he expect you to do so? Loyalty is earned and therefore two-way. It also needs to be continuously earned, just as superiors expect underlings to do. From your update, what made him mad is that he had to pay your replacement, new to the role, significantly more than he was paying you, which shows he and the company were taking advantage of your loyalty, not rewarding it with loyalty to you. It was a bad time for him and the company for you to leave, no mention of how leaving would impact you good or bad. You already knew it would be good for you. Funny how it's just business until you don't get what you feel you are entitled to from someone. Frankly, anyone who negatively pulls the loyalty card that way shows how little they deserve any loyalty. Like you, I learned that from a toxic employer, but was on the short end of the lesson in that transaction. When I finally managed to get a new position, I was offered right out of the gate at 65% more than my asking rate. My new employer was gently showing me how much I had been taken advantage of by the staff there, who were more concerned with reserving pay raises for themselves than being honest or fair. Your trinity of rules are good ones to operate by, and you should never totally rely on others to do right. You can expect them to be fair and above board, but don't hang everything on it. No successful company I know has ever stayed open on such a business model. Reply: I think it's a lot more complicated than that honestly. My boss doesn't care much for how much extra he had to pay a new guy. The salary bands are set up by HR and his budget is approved by his boss's boss. He recognizes the market conditions pushed the company to increase the upper band to get anyone remotely qualified to fill my shoes. But it's all a bit abstract, the cash is not coming out from his pocket if that makes sense. Just pointing these things out because I cut out a bunch of fluff, but he's a good dude and while his job requires him to tend to corporate interests first, I don't have any hard feelings. Stories number 22. Aita for not bringing my kids to their stepmom. I have 2 children, 12 and 9. Their father left me while I was pregnant with my second. He and his GF have 2 together also. He is out of town for work. He said he would be back in about a month. He is scheduled to have the kids every other weekend. He will not take them for his weekend because he has to work, he has plans with his other family, or my kids have a stuffy nose headache and aren't allowed. He often goes 2 to 3 months without seeing the kids. He is pushing me at this point to still bring my kids over to his GF on the weekends so that they can keep them on a schedule and see their siblings. The thing is, I flat out refuse to interact with his GF at all. She has accused me of heinous things. She talks down to me and is all around disrespectful. I will not put up with it anymore. This has been going on since the beginning. I have been accused of drinking throughout my pregnancy, withholding my children, making up medical conditions that my youngest has, and putting my hands on their child. I drew the line and cut off contact then. I do not feel that my kids are taken care of while they are there. My youngest has several food allergies that they said I made up and would continually cause flare-ups because they kept feeding them the foods they react to. More recently, my kids have expressed that they don't want to be there. Their siblings are mean to them. There is no corrective action towards this behavior. My youngest is called a wimp, a pussy, a nerd, etc. Their kids will get to go do fun things while mine are left to clean the house. At this point, I don't even feel comfortable with my kids being there when their dad is in town. I have told him no to his requests every time he has brought it up. He refuses to acknowledge any of what has happened and will not accept no as an answer. They both think I'm being unreasonable and vindictive towards their kids. So, Aita for not doing this? Stories number 23. Aita for telling my cheating ex-wife to tell her sob story to someone who cares. I, 40M, married to my ex-wife Lisa, 40F, 20 years ago. We were married for 5.5 years and we had 2 children together who are 18 and 16 now. Our marriage ended when I found Lisa in bed with another man after coming home from work. Lisa tried to deny an affair was happening and insisted she had simply offered this guy a place to crash for the night. But even if I had tried to ignore the more obvious signs and believe her, she sent our kids to my parents' house and had not mentioned anyone staying over, so I would have been a fool to believe her. After I filed for divorce, Lisa found out she was pregnant, tried to tell me I was the father and that we should get back together, then said I couldn't be the father, which I already knew because I had a vasectomy and did all my checkups. Then she miscarried and blamed me, citing the stress of divorce and fighting custody of our kids as the reason, even though she was the one who wanted sole custody of our kids and for me to pay $5,000 a month in child support, which wasn't even possible. She lived with her affair partner and around this time he got arrested and she stayed in his house. He served about 2 years. So our divorce was finalized and everything. We had shared physical and legal custody 50-50 and had a court-ordered parenting agreement that spelled out everything. Our kids hated Lisa's husband. He was a POS and highly jealous of the fact Lisa had to share custody of the kids with me. He was an overbearing drill sergeant with them. He'd check their stuff that moved between houses with them, including their school backpack. He'd confiscate any food they had with them, even if it was from school. Most of the time he ate it himself or tossed it in the trash. He'd write notes to me and insist my kids give them to me. Lisa knew all this. The kids complained to her and it made Lisa complain to me, and she took me to court once saying I was engaging in alienation because the kids complained about her husband to her. The judge didn't entertain her beyond letting her make her case in court. Lisa and her husband's personal life was a mess. She found out he lied about having a kid when they met, and he found out he had fathered another kid when him and Lisa were cheating behind my back. Those kids moved in with them full time and Lisa tried to sue for more child support, which I did pay some but not a large amount because we had the kids an equal amount of time. My kids struggled with everything and they'd talk to me. I had to fight to get them into therapy because Lisa refused to consent and she accused me of trying to ruin them with an expense like that. Even when I agreed to pay the full amount she said no. But the judge overruled her when I took this to court. My kids were under increased pressure to bring stuff from my house to their mom's house so the other kids could play with their games. My kids hated going to their moms, but my first attempt to get majority full custody failed. The kids were too young for their voices to be heard also. I did what I could to support and be there for my kids. They grew increasingly unhappy there. And finally 3 years ago I was awarded full custody because of the wishes of the kids. By that point Lisa had 2 more children with her husband. But my kids never bonded with the step or half siblings and did not care about maintaining contact with them and still wanted to live with me alone. Child support was then changed from me paying to Lisa paying. She had it reduced once last year for financial difficulties facing her household. In the last couple of months Lisa has contacted me a grand total of 42 times, via email, asking for financial support and for me to send our kids' old stuff to her house. I wrote back one time clearly stating I would not, and I ignored further emails. My lawyer has them documented, but that's the most I've done with them. Instead of leaving it alone, she confronted me and tried to tell me this sob story about struggling to feed and clothe and take care of the 4 kids in her household. But I shot her down and told her to tell the sob story to someone who cares because her household is none of my concern. Only our children are my concern. She reached out to the oldest 2 and both kids blocked her once they realized she would start something. In response to what I said, she wrote a very lengthy email that I skimmed, and she sent a former friend of ours, who sided with her in the divorce, to confront me about abandoning her twice and being cruel. I shut that person down. It was 12 or more years ago when I last saw them. However, I am aware that Lisa is still the mother of my kids. I know they don't care for a relationship with their mother or step-half siblings right now, but that could change. And maybe I am not creating the best environment for them right now. More specifically because of how I spoke to Lisa when she asked for help. I know all that did was worsen things between us. Does this make me TA? That's what I want to know. Stories number 24. AITH for refusing to babysit for my sister unless she pays me. Hi Reddit, I'm 20, non-binary, they, and currently unemployed, not by choice, just in between jobs and figuring things out. I live with my parents while job hunting and trying to figure everything out. My older sister 33F has 2 kids 4M and 2F and she's a single mom. I love my niece and nephew to so much, but lately she's been leaning on me for childcare. Like multiple times a week and sometimes it's all day. She'll drop them off at my parents' house, where she knows I'll be. Sometimes she won't even text me or call me to let me know. At first, I didn't mind helping. But it's becoming a full-time unpaid job. I don't have time for job applications or really anything when I'm constantly chasing toddlers around. Last week I told her, hey, I can still help sometimes, but if you want me to watch the kids regularly, I need to be paid because you know my situation. She flipped. Said I was being selfish and ungrateful since I live rent-free and don't have a real job. My parents kind of sided with her, saying I should help because she's family and that it's not like I have anything better to do. I feel bad, but I also feel like my time and energy matter, even if I'm not working a 9 to 5. I don't want to cut her off, but I'm tired of being guilted into unpaid labor. What do you guys think I should do? AITH or is she? Update, AITA for not wanting to provide free childcare for my sister anymore. May 20th, 2025. Hey again Reddit, I wanted to post an update because things with my sister escalated in a way I didn't expect, and I've also had a bit of a breakthrough in my job search. First, a quick clarification. I had mentioned in my original post that I'm non-binary and use they them pronouns. I included that just to give context about who I am as a person. I definitely wasn't trying to spark debate or push anyone's buttons. I had no idea it would make some people upset, and honestly wasn't the point of the post in the slightest. Now for the update. After I told my sister, 33F, that I couldn't keep watching her kids constantly for free and that I needed to start setting boundaries so I could focus on job hunting, she absolutely blew TF up on me. At first, it was the stuff that we had heard before. She was calling me lazy, ungrateful, saying I live rent-free and have nothing better to do. But then she said some things to me that I don't think I'll forget. She started yelling at me in front of my parents, saying I was pathetic, a burden to everyone, and that no one would ever hire an ungrateful BTCH like me. Then she straight up said, honestly, if you can't even help your own family you might as well just die because you're useless anyway. I just stood there shocked. I couldn't believe she said that to me. I've bent over backwards for her for months, rescheduled many different interviews and did everything I can to help her kids because I love them. But hearing those words from my own sister, it broke something in me. That kind of cruelty just doesn't go away. What makes this worse is that my parents still try to downplay it. My mom told me she didn't mean it and that my sister is just stressed. But there's a difference between being stressed and just being plain deliberately cruel. I've never said anything even close to that to her. Even when she's dropped her kids on me without a warning or when she's made me cancel plans. The ironic part? I actually have 2 job interviews later this week. One is for a remote admin position, and the other is part-time work at a non-profit I really support and love what they are doing. I've been working hard on applications and resumes in between babysitting toddlers all week, and it's finally starting to pay off. But none of that matters to her. In her eyes, if I'm not working a full-time 9 to 5 right now, I'm nothing but a worthless sack of dollar hit. Also, for some added context which I didn't mention before. Both of my parents make solid incomes between $80,000 and $120,000 a year each. So we're not in any kind of financial crisis. They were also happy when I wanted to move back in after my last job let me go. There's just this expectation that because I live at home and I'm in between jobs, I should drop everything to become a full-time nanny for free. No sort of discussion, no consideration for my time, mental health, or goals. So yeah. I still love my niece and nephew with all my heart and I still want to be part of their lives. But I don't think I can keep being treated like I don't matter. Not by my sister, and not by anyone else in my family. So Reddit, I'll ask again. AITA for setting boundaries, asking to be paid for childcare, and prioritizing my own life even if my sister thinks that makes me selfish. Also wish me luck at my interviews later this week. Final update. Hey Reddit, I didn't think I'd be back with another update, but I want to close the loop on what's been one of the most painful, chaotic, and strangely empowering chapters of my life. I originally came here asking if I was wrong for not wanting to be my sister's full-time unpaid babysitter just because I was between jobs. Since then, everything has snowballed. But through it all, your advice helped me find some clarity and more importantly some peace. So here's the final update. First, I'm working now. That remote admin position I interviewed for. I got it and I've already been working there for a little while. It's going so great. My co-workers are supportive, the job is stable and I finally feel like I'm building something for myself. I also took your advice and paid the security deposit on my own apartment. It's nothing fancy, but it's safe, it's quiet, and it's finally something that's mine. But things with my sister got worse before they got better, or at least before they bottomed out. Somehow, she got my address even though I never gave it to her. One night at close to midnight, I heard furious banging at my door. When I looked out the peephole, I saw her completely wasted, shouting and staggering, yelling insults I honestly didn't even have the energy to respond to. I cracked the door just a bit worried maybe something had happened to her kids and she got right in my face. Her breath reeked of alcohol, and she was slurring horrible things about how I was a pathetic freak who abandoned the family, how I was dead to her, how people like me don't deserve to be loved. How I was such a fuck up and that I would never go anywhere in life. It was unhinged. Then I saw her car parked crooked outside. Her kids were in the back seat. In pajamas. It was midnight. She brought them with her while she was blackout drunk and threatening me. I told her she needed to leave. That she was scaring me. She screamed in my face, stormed off the porch and came back with a rock. Before I could move, she hurled it through my front window with full force. I had been looking out the window, trying to see where her car was, and the rock hit me in the side of the face. Glass flew everywhere. I stumbled back, bleeding, stunned. And just like that she bolted to her car, still drunk, still screaming. She drove off, but she didn't get far. A few minutes later, I heard the sirens. She had crashed her car just a few blocks away. Everyone is okay. Let me say that again, the kids are okay, thank God. Some bruises, a lot of fear, but no one seriously hurt. But my sister? She's in a lot of trouble now. She got a DUI, endangering minors, and destruction of property. There's a real case building. I filed a full report, and this time I am pressing charges because what else can I do? I didn't want it to come to this. I didn't want to be the person calling the cops on my own sister, or watching her get handcuffed while her kids cried in the back of a patrol car. But she left me no choice. She put me and her own children in danger. And this time, it couldn't be ignored. And for once, my parents agree. After seeing the wreck, the police report, the hospital paperwork from where I was treated for the blow to my face, my parents finally saw it for what it was. Not stress. Not a bad night. Not family drama. This was abuse. This was unsafe. And this was something that could have ended so very differently. They apologized. Fully. Said they were wrong to enable her, wrong to guilt me, wrong to dismiss everything leading up to this. They told me I was right to set boundaries, to move out, to call for help. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to be used, for choosing to protect myself, and for putting my safety above someone else's denial. No, I was never the asshole, I was someone trying to survive. I still love my niece and nephew more than anything. And I hope that as they grow up, they'll know I never walked away from them, I just finally stood up for myself. Thanks again to everyone who listened, validated, and encouraged me. I didn't have a lot of support at home, but somehow, you gave me the strength to change my life. I'm working, healing, and finally, I feel safe. Edit. I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments saying that my story is AI generated. I just want to say it's not in the slightest. This is my life and every part of what I have said happened to me. I know the updates came quickly, but that's because so many things have been happening in a short amount of time. I've been working really hard behind the scenes to try and get out of my parents' house and finally stand on my own. For those saying it seems too fast, believe me, I get it. But I was already job hunting before my first post, and once I got hired, I jumped at the chance to get started. I also had a small retirement account I started from my last job. I never wanted to take any out of it, but I chose to take the advice you guys had given me on my last post. I made sacrifices and took a risk because I wanted a change in my life. It's fine if some people don't believe me. But this is my story, my life. I came here for advice and I stayed and updated you because so many of you reminded me that I deserve respect and safety. Stories number 25. Should I leave my family business? At the moment, I work for my father, and my younger brother is also in the business. We're a construction firm. I've worked at the company since I was 14, doing office work over the summers all the way through college. After getting my degree and working elsewhere for 7 years, I came back to the family business and for nearly 10 years have been working my way into more and more of a leadership role. My dad is my boss, but he is not a good delegator, manager, or mentor. He is a great project manager and knows the industry like the back of his hand and is good at his job, but very much not a teacher or long-term planner. On paper and sort of by actions, I am his heir apparent. But in reality I'm just being given a little bit of everything without any ownership over anything, and it's overwhelming. I am now point on some aspect of almost every part of the company: IT, HR, management, accounting, office management, marketing, and on top of that I keep getting construction projects to manage. I started here as a project manager, and note that none of our other PMs have any other office admin responsibilities, just me. I keep trying to get out of project management, because it's hard to prioritize employee reviews or revamping the website when you're constantly pulled into project issues, which by definition need to take priority because they pay the mortgage. But every time I'm close to finishing out my last project, a really great prospect comes up and we don't have the staff to handle it, so I end up taking it on and I'm back on the hook for another 9 to 12 months of PM work taking 50% of my time. Every time we've tried to make a plan for me to take over a specific part of my father's role or our CFO's role, it just doesn't happen. They can't actually let go. Meanwhile, I'm just getting all the mundane stuff put on my plate, like ordering more laptops or figuring out how to run certain reports in our accounting software. These tasks don't interest me. I want to be big picture, I want to be strategic. We just had a strategic planning retreat 2 months ago, which I organized, pulled together the data and agenda for, and facilitated, all of which I really enjoyed. During that retreat, the decision was made that I would go get some financial training and move towards CFO and out of project management. Last week we landed a new 12 to 15 month project, and guess who is now the PM? We just hired a new PM, guess who is supposed to be training and mentoring him, though I'm not his manager, that's still my dad. I'm so burnt out from the pandemic and trying to figure out how to do my job, what my job even is, and what any sort of pathway towards a job here that I like looks like that I've been pretty checked out for the last 2 months. Yesterday my dad confronted me about that. He asked, "Have you decided construction isn't for you?" It hurt, and I kind of tried to explain everything above, but I'm really close to just saying, yeah, construction isn't for me, I'm out, and blowing up the last 10 years worth of a career I've been trying to build here. It would be so much simpler to be out. But I have a lot of pride in this place, it's basically another family member, and I love that it's an ethical company that supports real careers and puts its employees first. But I haven't been happy here for a while. I loved putting together and running that strategic retreat, but now all that work feels like a waste of time, because we aren't doing anything with it. I feel so stuck, and can't see any way out besides just blowing it up. My relationship with my father and brother would be fine if I left. They would understand. The company would figure it out, or it wouldn't, and my dad would have to sell. I don't know, at some point it's still just a business, not actually a member of the family, right? I know I have skills that would make this place better, but I feel like they are atrophying after years and years of banging my head against a wall and not getting any sort of direction or plan or mentorship from anyone here, and feeling like all my efforts to develop my role here are just me flailing about. My passion for this place is gone. Maybe that's just post-pandemic blues. But I do know I would feel so free if I hit the eject button. I could go back to school, I could find work, volunteer for causes I care about, I could be a more present mom and spouse if I didn't work here. Maybe that's the right path, to separate family and work, and just let the chips fall where they may. Note that my spouse also has a full-on career working 60 hours a week for one of the tech giants, so balancing work and family is really hard with both of us having career-type jobs and small kids. And while my income is great to have, it's not necessary for our financial stability. The same would not be true if we lost my spouse's income. Any advice would be much appreciated. Update: a lot has changed, and a lot has not. Ultimately, I'm still with the family construction business, and I suspect I will be for the rest of my career. 2 things really hit me after my letter was published. The first being that I didn't really spell out what I like about my job, which you called me out on. So I gave that some thought. On good days, I love my job because I get to problem solve, either internally or on a project. Often I'm working to understand processes, figure out next steps, facilitate communication and find solutions, and every day is different and full of potential. I also love my company because we're the type of employer I think all employers should strive to be. We here, yes, to make money, but also to allow our employees to have a career that supports them in the unfolding of their lives. Just the other day, one of our employees thanked me for this being a wonderful place to work, that has supported her through real health issues, and she said she was glad I was starting to take over the reins as the next generation because she knew I would continue to retain that culture of family. Then just last night I attended an award ceremony where one of our projects was recognized for the historical restoration of a building that was falling apart. This award-winning building is in my neighborhood. It's a place where my family goes to hang out, where I now take my kids for the winter farmers market. It's a building that will be part of my larger community for the next 50+ years, and my company did that work. I feel real, deep satisfaction some days. I really like and respect both my father and my brother, who I work with daily. None of that came through in my letter, and it was really helpful to catalog all that good stuff because afterwards the hard stuff I was focusing and wrote you about suddenly loomed less large. I also have to say thanks to all of the advice that came from the commentariat that really helped me look at my situation differently. Specifically, I was really taken aback by their accusations of sexism towards my father. I found myself pretty insulted on his behalf, because he is the person who has steadfastly been my champion. We've had blunt conversations about the dearth of women in construction and why, and he sees what this industry is like and doesn't think it should be like this. He wants capable people in places of leadership, including capable women. He believes I have the skills and ability to do it. We just haven't been able to figure out how to get me there, get him to let go. Ultimately, the comments made me realize I was doing a lot of this to myself. I was taking on the HR stuff, I was volunteering to pick up the 401k administration, order the laptops, fix the website, move into the financial side of the company. Long story short, I had to ask if I was being the sexist one by taking on all the administrative tasks that needed doing, when they didn't feel like actual moves upwards. I personally didn't need to own any of it, I just kept taking it on because someone needed to. Maybe it was internalized sexism or maybe it was just being bad at delegating, but I finally saw it thanks to you all. So we've since hired a new office manager director of HR, at my behest, and OMG, yes. This person is worth their weight in gold, and now enjoys doing, and does well all of that administrative stuff I had taken on. The new PM who I mentioned in the letter has since started, and I'm training him, which means he's learning to PM the way I want him to, and has been a great addition to our team. And we've also since brought on a vice president of marketing and design, who is potentially going to be our interim CEO instead of me taking the reins directly from my father. This makes a lot of sense in many ways, not least because he has more experience in the industry and with working as an executive, but also because him taking responsibilities from my father is just less fraught. So, now I'm back to being mostly a project manager, which I enjoy and am good at, with flavors of being a manager. I'm still a leader here, I'm on the board of directors and get to weigh in on decisions and what direction we head. People seek out my advice and ask me to address issues, and while the immediacy of taking over my father's role is gone, it's still very much the long-term plan, though the plan is more fuzzy than it was. It's on the to-do list, don't worry. In the near term, I need to focus on landing projects so we can pay these new hires that are doing the stuff I don't want to, which seems like a good trade-off to me. Overall, I'm really proud of the moves I had this company make over the last year, and specifically the last couple months, the hires, the new projects, the changes in roles, and the leadership accountability structures I've put in place. I appreciate the perspective Allison and the commenters gave me, it helped me figure out a way through to the other side during a rough time. Cheers and thanks so much. Update 2, my brother is my business partner and he keeps going MIA November 11, 2024. 3 years later. I wrote you way back in 2021 when I was trying to decide whether or not to stay in the family business, and in 2024 I sent you my update. I've since stepped into the role of CEO, for better or worse, and am now facing an ongoing issue for the first time as the leader of this company. We have 3 family members who are part of the business now, my father, majority owner and president, myself, CEO, minority owner, and my brother, VP, minority owner. My brother and I have the same ownership stake and the idea was that the company will transition to us, and we will be equal business partners. But my brother is undependable. My guess is that he has depression, anxiety, or some type of mental health issue that he has never addressed, and it means he's often mildly unreliable and then every once in a while he drops the ball in a spectacular fashion that leaves other people to clean up his mess. We've had conversations about this on a number of occasions over the past decade. But about 3 years ago, it really seemed like he was doing much better. He was showing up, answering his phone, responding to emails, doing his job well, and actively participating in executive planning. He said he wanted to be here with me to lead our family business for the long term. And that felt wonderful. The idea of having a partner in this family business, where it can feel very high stakes and very lonely, was such a relief. My brother is smart and thoughtful, and I trust his judgment and views, which often differ from mine, which is great in a business partner. Shortly after that was when long-term plans for ownership were being put into place, and actual ownership stock started to change hands. I thought my brother and I were going to be a great team, but 18 months ago, there was an incident where he went uncommunicated for a week and left a project manager in the lurch. We had to scramble to find a subcontractor to complete our work. Eventually he showed up and said he wouldn't do it again. And then a year ago, he left on his honeymoon having completely failed to get a project with a hard deadline started, leaving me having to scramble to make apologies to city officials, track down materials, ask for extensions, and generally get really ticked off at my brother. Once he got back, I, in the presence of my father, told my brother that he needed to see a therapist or in some other way address his lack of dependability or I would not go into business with him. He agreed and said he'd already talked to his doctor about getting a referral. Over the last year, I've asked a couple times if he's made any progress with getting help, but he's always said he was waiting on insurance or for an appointment, etc. Over the last month he's gotten shaky again, being less and less responsive. Then 2 days ago, I found out he was leaving the country the next day for 2 weeks. He never told me. I found out from my mother. We once again have a project left in the lurch, making other people scramble. He left one of our crews short a member, he gave his guys only one work day of notice, and another employee is scheduling things that he should have scheduled. And I've come to discover that he's put off scheduling a kickoff meeting for another project for the past 3 weeks, ignoring the emails from an angry PM for the state. How do I deal with this? I know I don't want to be in business with my brother under these circumstances. I said that last year, and I meant it, and I set a boundary, and here we are and it's time to enforce this boundary. I know all that, but I don't know what to actually do and what to actually ask for. My dad sees all this, and is supportive of me. My brother has been doing this to my dad for nearly a decade, and I think my dad is even more fed up and upset than I am. My dad is also a bit of a hothead and a dictator. He wants to straight up fire my brother. I don't know. Maybe that's best. But my brother has good qualities, good skills, and he is an owner and he is my brother. What about a PIP? A leave of absence? A change in role, take him out of leadership? Or did that ship sail last year? Part of what is so hard is that I love him. And he's falling apart at work because of very real, very challenging stuff in his personal life. The other part is, I lived the same childhood as my brother. We had an alcoholic mother and my parents went through a terribly messy divorce, and all that created issues around communication and confrontation and self-worth and shame for all of us, issues that I've worked hard to overcome through my own therapy and coaching. So I'm deeply empathetic to why my brother is the way he is. And I don't want to blow up my relationship with him or my sister-in-law. But I can't do it like this anymore. And ultimately if we keep going like this, the relationship is already destroyed because I'm so frustrated and angry. And I could work with him, somehow, probably, if he would just communicate with me, if he had just told me he was going to be on vacation, that he had been ignoring these emails, that he was stalling out. But we've tried saying, please, for the love of everything, just communicate, for nearly a decade, and nothing has changed. It's never really gotten better, except for that brief period 3 years ago. I've read through your archives, looking for family businesses hitting similar issues, and this really hit home. We're experiencing these issues, the hit to morale and people talking about leaving based on family members being treated differently. So I know we need to change and I know there is no way to do it without this being sad and painful. Any advice you could offer to help me figure out some options to move forward that fall between, keep doing what we're doing and getting the same result, and fire him as soon as he steps off the airplane, would be much appreciated. My brother gets back in 2 weeks, and I need a game plan for what our conversation is going to look like. Update. The news is all positive but the path there was not without its challenges. So when I wrote in, my brother had gone out on vacation without giving any notice, again, leaving me and others in the lurch. Many commenters supposed he was entitled and spoiled, making big money for doing nothing, but this couldn't be further from the truth. We're a mid-sized family business, all of us work very hard and everyone is paid a solid livelihood, including the family owners. But no one is making fortune, 500 money. And on the other side of the coin, all the same executive pressures exist. The responsibility to keep this place going, to make the right choices so we survive a recession, survive the competition, and survive the changes in technology and workforce and varying governmental requirements is intense. My brother was buckling under the stress of living up to everything, not least of which was being pulled between my father's expectations and the expectations of his wife, neither of which he could meet and neither of whom he could figure out how to talk to about the reality of what he could and couldn't do. Then go ahead and add the pressure of a very successful older sister, who is his boss, to the mix. Simply put, he was freezing up and stalling out in the face of all that conflict. This is the thing about family business that nothing and no one can really prepare you for. People tell you to compartmentalize. They tell you to separate business from family. They tell you to not let the two worlds mix. But the reality is that you are sitting there, at all times, being both a daughter and a manager, a sister and a colleague, a parent and a boss, a child and a subordinate. There is no separating, no putting on different hats, no being two different people inside yourself. You're just one person, and there actually is no way to keep your family history from impacting your reactions to the other person, and no way to inure one way you have to relate to someone from impacting the other way you relate to them. When it's good, it's really good. But when it's hard, it's everything that is hard about family combined with everything that is hard about business, which is hard indeed. So the very hard choice I made was to decide that I had to do what was best for the company, for the sake of myself and all my colleagues, and to let go of the rest. I had to be okay with losing my relationship with my brother for the sake of the business. When my brother returned from his trip, I put him on unpaid leave and told him that if he wanted to rejoin the family business he would need to come back to a labor field only position without any authority. My brother is actually very talented and skilled in many ways, just not as a project manager, so keeping his skills in our workforce was in the best interest of the company and I told him so. But I fired my brother and told him he would have to reapply for a new position because his old position no longer existed. Then, as his sister, I told him I loved him. I told him I would be happy to help him financially while he was out of work. I told him I would be happy to help him find a therapist. And I would be happy to support him and his family in any way they needed during this time, just not through the company. I tried to be there for him, even as I was the one firing him, and he was never upset with me. He saw all of it. He knew he had let everyone down. He knew why I was doing what I was doing. He left the office that day feeling even more awful and more horribly guilty about the whole situation. It took him about 6 weeks of not working, of dealing with the implications of what was happening, of finally being honest with his wife about all of it, for him to come to terms with everything, but he did. He is now regularly seeing a therapist, ironically, my therapist, which is a good thing because she is great, and he is starting to deal with some of the baggage from our childhood. Eventually he did come back to work. Now, day to day he is just a mason, laying brick and block at the direction of others. He was on hiatus for a while from his ownership duties, but he is now back on our executive team since he is still an owner and an officer. Those meetings are after hours so they don't interfere with his field duties. It's still a little bit of a weird setup, because it's still family business. But he is doing his job well and he is much happier now that his role matches his capabilities and he's not constantly worried about dropping the ball or not meeting expectations, and so am I. Stories number 26. Aita for keeping my distance from my family despite them reaching out to me. So I, 26F, have been no contact with my parents and my 2 siblings since I turned 18. The relationship breakdown happened 4 years prior to that, but I didn't have the option to leave, so we lived in a hostile environment for 4 years. The reason for the relationship breakdown was my parents' last foster, now adopted, kid. My parents fostered since I was 2 and my brother wasn't even born yet. My siblings and I developed pretty good relationships with most of them. There were a few who didn't fit great, but they never stayed long term. Our safety and comfort was supposedly always the priority. When I was 11, a new girl, Stevie, who was also 11, started in my school and she did not like me. I never really knew why. It was an instant dislike thing for her, and when we were asked to say hi she refused to say hi back to me. It was me and another girl. But she was more pissy looking at me. She bullied me and the dislike became mutual. My parents and siblings knew. They spoke to a couple of my teachers once or twice when things escalated with Stevie. When I was 13, my parents brought Stevie into our home and told me they were fostering her and they wanted me to try and make it work because this poor girl has never had a stable home or foster family and she has no biological family. I told my parents I didn't like that they brought her home to us, and they told me they understood we had our issues but she needed us. And that they knew I was an amazing girl and would show her the love I showed the other kids. My siblings grew to like, even love, Stevie and her them, I think. But we still disliked each other and it was tense with us in the same room. She'd still express her dislike and was adamant she never wanted to sit next to me or stuff like that. My parents would tell her we should try to work it out and I was willing. We got into a fight when we were both 14. She was mad that I had showered when she wanted to and told me to move my fat ass. I told her to leave me alone and I went into my room and got changed. She waited outside my room and started yelling that I should have asked her before getting a shower and how dare I keep her out when she had places to be. I told her to fuck off. We ended up fighting downstairs in front of everyone and she told me she wished she could punch me and I told her I wish she would because I wouldn't have to deal with her anymore. She then poked fun at the fact 2 of the boys in our grade had mocked my appearance and said I was the least dateable girl in school. I asked her what her problem was and she said it was always me and she was tired of dealing with me. I told her I wished my parents had left her where they found her and it was no wonder nobody kept her because she was just an evil B***tch and we'd all be better off if she was thrown back into multiple homes. My parents and my siblings all took her side. They told me I went too far and they were furious that I didn't regret saying it to Stevie. I told them it was true. That I couldn't stand her and wished they'd send her away for my sake and I didn't care what happened to her after that. From that day until the day I left they expected me to regret it and apologize and to make amends with Stevie. My parents even adopted her when we were 16. I refused to go to court with them and I told them I would not celebrate them making her my sister. My parents told me they were disgusted by my treatment of Stevie and I should have had more patience with her instead of wishing her away. My parents said as long as I refused to accept a member of my family I would be kept out and to forget about assistance from them with college. After I moved out there were no attempts for years to make contact with me. It was only in April when that changed. My brother reached out first, followed by my sister, and then they sent messages on behalf of our parents, all on socials. They said they heard I was graduating and wanted to know more and come to support me as a family. I left them on read. They tried a few more times and I did the same. Then I got a call from my mom, who got my number from a relative, a couple of weeks before graduation, and she wanted me to speak to her. I told her I had nothing to say and to go and enjoy Stevie because I was done. I blocked the number she called from and went and confronted the relative who gave my number to mom. The relative defended herself and said this had gone on long enough. I told her she had no business doing that and she knew I wouldn't be okay with it. Since then I had the child of said relative, aka another relative, tell me I was being an antisocial weirdo for blaming her mom and then for refusing to work things out with my family. It stung to hear because I feel like everyone expects me to just forget the Stevie stuff, or maybe my family even expects me to apologize and make nice with her. I didn't even ask. I talked to friends and they were all on my side. But of course they would be, right? I asked another relative and they were on my side, but they're not close to my family at all. I hate second-guessing myself, but I see no way back with my family and I don't know if that makes me what that other relative said or not. Stories number 27. AIO for walking out of dinner after my boyfriend laughed at my promotion. 27F, just got promoted at work. It's a big deal, I've been grinding for years for this. I told my boyfriend, 29M, a few days ago and he seemed lukewarm, but said, congrats. Last night we went out with some of his friends and one asked me what was new. I told them about the promotion and how proud I was. My boyfriend cut in with, yeah, now she's technically my boss in salary. Scary, right? Everyone laughed and one guy said something like, careful, she's gonna start wearing the pants now. My boyfriend added, she already does. Trust me. I laughed awkwardly, but I felt like I was being mocked. Like my win was being turned into a punchline. When we got in the car, I told him it bothered me. He got defensive and said, it was just jokes. Why do you take everything so personally? I ended up getting out of the car when we stopped for gas and Ubering home. He says I embarrassed him. Am I overreacting? Stories number 28. My mom told me I owe her my firstborn because I had a C-section. I, 28F, had my son a year ago. Emergency C-section after 26 hours of labor. It was traumatic. I still cry about it. My mother, a natural birth warrior, barely hid her disappointment. She told me I took the easy way out and missed the sacred bond. Then last week she hit me with this gem. You didn't really give birth. That means you technically owe me a grandchild I can actually bond with. I was stunned. I asked what the hell she meant. She smiled and said she was half joking and then immediately asked when we'd start trying for another one, the real way this time. I have no words. I gave birth. I gave my body. I gave my strength. I gave every ounce of myself to bring my son into this world. And this woman, who held my hand when I was 5 and scared of thunderstorms, now treats me like a failed project. I don't care if I had him via C-section, magic, or beamed him down from space, I'm his mother. And she doesn't deserve a second chance to diminish that. Stories number 29. Caught the office food thief accidentally. I am relatively new at my job, and it is not the most organized place. There is a full kitchen break room with a full fridge freezer and even an oven. There are no rules about the food in the fridge, i.e. some is there to share and some is private. I just stick to what I've brought and keep it in a small lunch bag to keep it from being confused with a shareable. Another thing, this is in rural NC and I am originally from New York. I've been here a while, but there's still cultural differences that matter. So, apparently there has been a rash of food thefts. No one spoke about them, at least with me, and it seems that everyone was prepared to suffer in silence. So yesterday I brought my lunch in and it was leftover curry pollo, and it was spicy. I enjoy it spicy and it was a bit much even for me. I have learned that in this area people like things much sweeter and much less spicy than I am used to. So when I entered the break room for my lunch, a bunch of people were standing around and one of the guys, Brent, was getting his blood pressure taken by the HR lady. I was concerned and came over and he immediately started yelling at me and telling me I tried to poison him. I was so confused, but after a whole back and forth I realized that Brent had stolen and attempted to eat my lunch and was claiming that I put an inedible amount of spices on it. I had to explain that I like spicy food. I didn't expect him to take my lunch, and now that I'm looking back at it I'm shocked he knew it was mine. Like it's in a small floral lunch bag, but I didn't put my name on it. So that is how everyone now knows that Brent is 1. A food thief and 2. Can't handle his spice. This is especially amusing to people because Brent is an older man over 6 feet and prides himself on being macho, and I am a 5-foot-nothing woman and the least intimidating person ever. TLDR, I brought in extra spicy food that made a food thief think he was having heart palpitations. Stories number 30. I pretend to be okay with my husband's family, but I honestly think they're disgusting. Every holiday, I smile. I bring the pie. I clean up the dishes. I nod and laugh at my in-laws' fake jokes, their weird little digs, their backhanded compliments. My husband thanks me every year for getting along with them. He tells me I've come so far. The truth is, I loathe every single one of them. His mother once told me, in front of her friends, that she was relieved our baby took after him. His father got drunk and asked if I used to be a man. His sister cried when she found out we were pregnant, because she always thought she'd be first. His grandma called me urban. I'm Filipino. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of swallowing their insults and cleaning up after their messes. Every time I speak up, my husband goes quiet. Don't start something. So I just simmer quietly and I fantasize about skipping every single holiday. About taking my baby, packing a bag, and just not going back. I don't want to be the bigger person anymore. I just want to be a person. Stories number 31. Aita for embarrassing my coworker by outing her as the one who keeps stealing my tea. So I, 28F, work in a pretty chill office. We've got a shared kitchen area with a take one, leave one vibe for snacks and drinks. People leave extra granola bars, packets of oatmeal, all that. Cool. But the unspoken rule is, if it's labeled, leave it alone. Anyway, I'm kind of a tea snob and I bring my own imported stuff from this place my grandma used to order from in the UK. I keep a little box of it in the kitchen cabinet with a big label on it that says, "My name's tea, please do not take." Except, someone's been taking it. Not just 1 or 2 bags. Half the box disappeared in a week. So I did what any mildly unhinged office girly would do, I slipped a few decoy bags into the box and soaked the tags in fish sauce overnight. Dried them. Resealed the wrappers. Waited. 2 days later, one of my coworkers, we'll call her Tina, 31F, comes storming out of the kitchen gagging and asking if someone tampered with the tea. I stayed quiet until she said, "I don't know who buys that weird brand, but it tastes like a literal fish tank." And I said, "Oh, that's mine. The one with my name on it." She went pale. Dead silent. And then mumbled something about not seeing the label. Now she's pissed, telling everyone I set her up and that it was a malicious prank, when all I did was booby-trap my own tea. HR hasn't said anything yet, but some people think I crossed a line. I didn't put anything dangerous in it. I just made it gross. And honestly, if you're gonna steal tea from a labeled box, you deserve the fishy consequences. So, Aita for basically tricking her into exposing herself. Stories number 32. Guest arrived 15 minutes late to the ceremony with a kid. I can't talk badly about this family friend in real life, so I'm airing it out on Reddit. This family friend is in their 50s, and wasn't able to figure out the website, so we ended up RSVPing for them around a month before the wedding. First red flag. On my wedding day, I'm the bride, I saw my MIL running around on the phone with someone as I lined up for the procession. We were already running 15 minutes late, so I assumed whoever it was would miss the ceremony. We had 7 total pairs of bridesmaids-groomsmen. After 5 of the pairs had entered the chapel, the family friend shows up. With a kid I was totally unaware was coming. And she would have entered with the procession had I not personally stopped her and told her to wait until after I entered. She did wait. Directly behind me. In all of my wedding photos as I walked down the aisle. Then, the unknown kid, who I found out later is her grandson, talked loudly during the personal vows I had written. Our wedding wasn't child-free, but the youngest we'd invited was 8 years old and the grandson was probably 4. And then, the last kicker, the family friend was the first to exit the chapel and insisted on pictures with our professional photographer of my husband and I, her, and the child. My husband and I tried to roll with it because otherwise I would have lost it. I noticed later that none of these photos made it into our album, Go Photographer. Of course, the kid also didn't have a seat at the reception, which my MIL thankfully resolved for me. But oh my lord, if I never see this woman again it will be too soon. Incredibly rude start to finish. ETA, there's a little confusion about family friend, this person is like a second mother to my husband and was not a forced invite. We know her well, but had never met her grandson. We may need to rethink the friend part after this interaction though. ETA 2, I completely agree with those saying that a wedding planner or event coordinator could have solved this problem. We are both grad students so this was a low budget affair, around 12 to 13K total, but wedding planners are worth their weight in gold for those who can afford them. Stories number 33. My 24F father, 50M, screamed at me and told me he wished that my mom would have aborted me. How do I get over this before I get married to my fiancé? Growing up, I used to be very close to my dad and so was my mom. However, my parents started fighting more often and he would cheat on her for women that were younger than her. It ended in divorce when I was 10. I know what he did was hurtful and wrong, but he kept reassuring me that him wanting a divorce doesn't mean that he loved me any less. I really wanted to believe that despite my mother and grandparents telling me he doesn't care about anyone other than himself. I can see now they were right. My dad decided to waive his custodial rights in favor of visitation and would be late on child support payments. At first we hung on important days like my birthdays and the Christmas. Those visits became less frequent when I was a teen, but the one day that he told me he would always be there was for my wedding. I met my wonderful fiancé a few years ago and gotten really close with his family. They always supported me and encouraged me to follow my dreams of becoming a doctor. My fiancé proposed to me a year ago and I was so happy. For our wedding, we didn't want a fancy wedding, but I did want my dad there. My family warned me he was likely to disappoint me by not showing up, but to their surprise, he seemed overjoyed and was willing to walk me down the aisle. I was so happy, but everyone else was skeptical, though they never bought this up too much. Soon, however, he kept calling with demands of alcohol at the wedding. He is an alcoholic and I didn't want him to fall off the rocker again. That issue seemed contentious until he finally agreed no alcohol would be served. Another issue then came up where he demanded to bring his girlfriend over, 20 years younger. I was dead set against this as she insulted me throughout the years and would often be the reason why my dad never showed up to my graduation ceremonies or most events since I was a teen. He kept saying he won't go unless he can bring her over. I told him and reminded him how much he wanted to see me and he would be disrespectful if he were to back off. He then said some cruel and nasty things to me, like how he wished that my mom aborted me and that his girlfriend was more of a respectful daughter than me. He hung up and blocked me. I tried to get on with the rest of the day of rehearsals. My wedding is in a week, but everyone could tell something was wrong. I only told them my dad had to back out for at least today. They don't know how nasty my dad was, as I didn't want to ruin the mood. I sobbed and sobbed when I was by myself and had to find a room to not let my fiancé see me like this. How do I get over this before the wedding starts? Stories number 34. Aita for not giving up my hotel room at my cousin's wedding because her sister forgot to book. Last weekend, I, 31F, went to my cousin's wedding at a beautiful mountain resort. It was a destination event, and the bride, 29F, had reserved a block of rooms for guests months in advance. As soon as we got the info, I booked my room, paid in full, and got my confirmation. Done and dusted. Fast forward to the wedding weekend. I arrived, checked in, and was settling into my room, looking forward to a quiet solo stay. I'd taken time off work and treated this as a mini vacation as well as a family event. Not even an hour later, there was a knock at my door. It was the bride's sister, 26F, who's also a bridesmaid. She looked flustered and said her room wasn't available because she forgot to confirm the booking. The resort was now fully booked. She asked if she could stay with me for just 2 nights. I hesitated. It was a standard room with 1 bed, and honestly, I'd been looking forward to a peaceful weekend. I gently told her I was sorry, but I had really counted on having the space to myself. I also mentioned there were other hotels nearby, maybe not on the resort property, but close enough. She didn't take it well. She said I was being selfish, that we're family, and that as part of the wedding party, she shouldn't be the one scrambling for a place to sleep. Later that night, the bride pulled me aside and asked, "Couldn't you just make it work for 1 weekend?" I said I understood it was stressful, but I'd planned and booked early. It wasn't my fault someone else dropped the ball. They eventually found a hotel for her about 15 minutes away. Now I'm getting shade in the group chat. Apparently, I'm the stuck-up cousin who couldn't sacrifice a little comfort for family. Some relatives are clearly taking her side, and it's made things pretty awkward. But from my perspective, I just kept the reservation I made months ago. I didn't cause the issue, and I don't think I should have to give up the space I paid for because someone else forgot. Aita for not giving up my hotel room. Stories number 35. My friend said I owe her half my inheritance because her family didn't have that. So my great-aunt passed away and left me a decent inheritance. Nothing wild, but enough to pay off my student loans and set aside a little savings. I told my friend, we'll call her Rachel, over lunch. She got quiet then she said, "Wow, must be nice. I bet you'll help out your friends who weren't so lucky growing up." I laughed and said something like, I'll probably treat my friends to dinner more often. She stared at me and said dead serious, "No, like, actually help. We've known each other forever. I think it'd be fair if you split it." I thought she was joking. She was not. She then brought up all the time she covered my coffee in college and said, "This is just the universe evening the score." Needless to say, I didn't share a dime. She blocked me on Instagram and told our mutual friends I ghosted her after I got rich. Sorry, Rachel, the only thing I'm splitting is the check, with people who actually support me. Stories number 36. Aita for starting my daughter's B-day party when my parents had not arrived. My parents are late for everything. For the past few years, if an event has been planned, me and my siblings tell them that it starts an hour before it actually does. Well, my daughter's 14th birthday just happened and we sent out the invitations 2 months ago. I said that the party would start at 2 p.m. The invite I sent to my parents said it would start at 1 p.m. A week before the party, I called them to remind them and they said they would be there at 1. I even called them the night before the party and reminded them that we would start at the given time. They said they would be there. The day of the party comes and people are showing up. At 1:15 they had no showed up, so I called them. They said they were on their way. They live less than 10 miles away, so it should not take them that long to get there, but apparently it does. Come 2 p.m. we started serving food and we enjoyed ourselves. 3 p.m. they finally show up and asked why didn't we wait for them. I told them that we figured they were not coming since we told them to be there at 1 and they still had not showed up at 2. They said that usually when an invitation says it starts at a certain time that it means that it is what time people should start arriving and not when the actual event starts. I have never heard this, I just thought it was obvious that you should always arrive at least 10 minutes to 15 minutes before an event starts. So Aita here. Stories number 37. Aita for making my coworker cry over a muffin I brought from home. So I, 25F, work in a small office and we've got this unspoken snack culture going on. People bring donuts, cookies, leftover birthday cake, whatever, and if it's on the break room table, it's fair game. Cool, right? Anyway, last week, I brought in this fancy muffin I'd been saving. I went out of my way to buy it from this bakery that's like 30 minutes out of town. I was hyped. I even put a sticky note on it that said, "Not for sharing, thanks," and left it in the break room fridge because I had a meeting and didn't want to lug it around. I come back, muffin is gone, not a crumb left. Not even my note. I literally stood there like someone just told me my dog ran away. I go around asking casually if anyone saw it, and that's when Emily, 26F, pipes up like, "Oh, I thought it was for everyone. I didn't see the note." Girl, you didn't see a bright yellow sticky note taped to the top of the box. So I said, "Okay, but even if there wasn't a note, why would you assume something that's in a box and not on the table was for you?" She started getting defensive and said I was making a big deal over a muffin and that I was publicly shaming her. All I did was ask. I didn't even raise my voice. She ended up crying in the bathroom and now HR's involved because apparently I intimidated her. Like, ma'am, I was grieving baked goods, not threatening violence. Now my manager says I should let it go and be more understanding because she's going through a lot lately. I don't even care about the muffin anymore. But now I'm the mean girl over a breakfast pastry and everyone's walking on eggshells around me. Was I seriously the AH for being mildly upset that someone ate the one thing I specifically said not to eat? Side note, I've started labeling my food with fake names now. Steve's muffin. He bites. Let's see who touches it next. Stories number 38. My grandmother is subtly transphobic, so I'm going all out. Like the title says, my grandmother is transphobic, but she shows it in a way where at first glance you'd think I'm overreacting. I'm 18, and 8 months on testosterone. I'm at the point where I get clocked as a cis man 99% of the time. Much to my joy, my grandmother has made attempts to intentionally dead name me. She intentionally pauses and puts more power to her voice when using the dead name, as well as misgendering me, but my parents shut that down. I know this is intentional because I've been out since I was 13, and she is very aware of the LGBTQ community. She also consistently tries to push me to use the women's room, which would make everyone in there, as well as myself, uncomfortable. My final straw happened today. She got my little sister a blue towel with shark's fish, as blue is her favorite color, for an upcoming water park trip. I didn't go shopping with them, and when they came back, my grandmother proudly handed me a pink towel with smiley face flowers all over it, knowing I hate pink and won't use that towel. It feels important to note that I would use any other towel, so long as it's not that style as it's clearly designed for little girls. Now for my revenge. I convinced her to take me to a pride festival in a few days. I'm going to be wearing a mesh top so my trans tape is visible, using a small amount of dye to make my facial hair pop, and I'm going to be doing my eyeshadow as the trans flag, as well as wearing my trans flag as a cape of sorts. It may not seem like much to some people, but this is my way of showing her that I will not be silenced. I feel that this is a very justified decision, and it makes me really excited to even think of doing this because it's a very powerful moment in my life as a trans man. Stories number 39. My teacher who called me stupid in HS was a patient of mine. When I was a freshman in high school, I had this teacher that absolutely hated me. She was my biology teacher who was also my homeroom teacher. I never did anything to her, yet she hated me. She accused me of being on drugs one time when I never even seen drugs in my life at that age. I just finished 8th grade going on 9th grade. I was just a tired, sleepless teenager that moved from the north to the south, also going through my parents' divorce. I was just depressed. Everyone down here treated me badly just because I looked different. I had no friends here and I missed my friends at home. So I did really bad in high school academically. I had to take summer school. She has told me I was academically challenged, but I'm not. I was tested back in middle school. I don't have any disabilities. She even called me stupid in front of the entire class. One time I raised my hand to answer a question since no one else was raising their hand, and she was so persistent on getting someone to answer, and I got the answer right, and she said, "Wow guys, even Jane Doe got this right. You guys should have known the answer." Anyways, fast forward more than a decade now. I'm a nurse. For a long time my high school teachers made me start to believe I was stupid. I wasn't stupid. I ended up doing well in college. I just had a tough childhood. I was depressed. I went through a lot during my teenage years. Last week, my former teacher from HS came into the clinic I work at, and I took her vitals and got her ready to see the doctor. She didn't recognize me. I look very different obviously, lol, and I got married, so I changed my last name. When I told her my first and last name, that she knows me by, and I told her I was in her class. Her eyes widened and she was shocked. She remembered me. She actually looked like she was excited to see me. She told me she was proud of me and she never thought in a million years that I would be her nurse. She joked to me and said, "I would have thought you made it as a receptionist if I ever imagined running into you at a clinic wearing scrubs," and she started laughing. I didn't think that was funny. Quite offensive actually. I was a receptionist for some time and I hated it. They deal with more shit than doctors and nurses do anyways. My former teacher is still a bitch, lol. Stories number 40. Aita for telling my sister it isn't my fault, that I planned my life and she didn't. I am 30F and recently gave birth to my son. My husband 30M and I met in college, dated and got into same job field at age of 22. We got married at 25 and decided to wait for kid. As we loved to party and traveling. We bought our house, traveled internationally and finally now focused on building our family, as we want our baby to have a stable family life and no more late night outs. No regrets, we lived our 20s fully. My sister 38F ran away with a jobless man 40M when she was 21. My parents weren't in favor of this relationship, as he was known drunk yard. But she didn't listen. She left her MBA midway and got married. Had her daughter at 22. She lives with my parents as her in-laws kicked her out with her husband, just 6 months into the marriage, as both were lazy and contributed nothing to family. She has exploited my parents to core, but my parents refuse to change and I can help the blind, till a limit. They won't accept, but they have soft corner for her. As they lost their first child, why he was 2 months old and she was the precious child afterwards. I have already told parents to give my house share to niece in their will, 16F, who is good at studies, a sensitive kid. My parents and I have raised her. She is like daughter to me. I don't need the house. My parents have good pensions and I have saving account for niece too. My sister and her husband barely lives check to check. She has decent job, but she has multiple expenses, like going to parlor once a week, and her useless husband wastes all of his money on drinks. My niece isn't close to her parents, as they didn't raise her at all. Just appearances. They openly cheat on each, but refuse to divorce, as they know they can't get better. Recently, she kept making bitter remarks on my perfect life, how my husband do lots of PDA, he is too romantic openly, which makes me blush and embarrassed. How I post my duplex house pics on Insta. That I am gonna spoil my son. I had enough and told her, it was my life choices and she made her own life choices. Told her, her daughter dislikes her because she is failure of a mother, failure of a sister and daughter. I told her and her husband, how they caused loss of near $100,000 to parents. Because they took money from loan sharks. And my parents had to sell land to save them. I told her to stop being jealous and focus on being better. She is near 40 and still acts like she is in college. She started screaming and crying. I left. Now my parents messaged me to be not harsh on her, as she keeps screaming at them. I told them, it was their decision to house her and they have to develop spine. Although I understand their codependency on each other, as they are aging and she does chores for them. But I have given them option to live with me as they age. As my husband and I decided to take care of each other's parents in old age, my sister made a social media post that some women become airhead and arrogant when they have some money. I wasn't boasting about this at all. We got same options to study. We were given same life. I choose what was best for me. Stories number 41. GF's sister, 26F, drove my 25M relatively nice car without my permission. It's costing $4,000 to fix it, and I haven't had a car for a week. GF, 26F, is refusing to be involved. How do I handle this situation? I've been living in France the past 3 months or so, and I left my car with my GF sister, 30F, as it had gotten broken into in my garage in the past, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving it there that long. Her sister was taking care of the car while I was gone, making sure to run it every now and then, even getting a car wash, all things I'm appreciative of, and I got her gifts and paid her for the service. However, my girlfriend flew into town late one night, and borrowed my car, without asking, to drive it to her parents' house an hour away or so. Her other sister then drove it back down, again without my permission. The issue? The car had a bunch of check lights appear on the drive down, it started smoking, and the ride basically melted my engine. How you would drive a car in that state that far, but the mechanics are saying it had to have been driven for a while with no coolant. Of course a coolant hose had failed. It's a relatively nice car, so charges to basically replace cooling system parts the engine have racked up to about $4,000 or so, and I've been without a car for more than a week at this point. I'm incredibly frustrated because my GF did not ask my permission for her or her sister to drive my car, she has offered no help, and is totally washing her hands of the situation. I always check my car for any weird releases or puddles beneath it, and this coolant was leaking out like a hose. I don't know how you can ignore a bunch of warning lights either. I have been understanding, trying to stay calm, but I have had a bunch of really unfortunate expenses pop up, and I've been super stressed and anxious, and to me, this is the icing on the cake. I'm not sure how to move forward. We just signed a lease together, another crazy expense, and I'm seriously regretting doing so. I would appreciate a third-party perspective on the matter as I don't know how to move past this. Edit. Some details weren't clear in the original post, which is my fault. I had just returned to the US from France when I realized my car was cooked, but I had left it with my GF sister during my time abroad as her family grew up close to where I am living currently. The city I am in now in the US isn't my home base, so I couldn't leave it with my friends or family. It's a Volvo S60, which is my baby, but they are expensive to fix. After reading through this post yesterday and talking to close friends, I decided to talk through the situation with my GF. She didn't realize how upset and despondent I have been over this situation, as she is not great as reading people's emotions. I guess I wasn't communicating my thoughts or feelings well. After I brought up the story, she basically said it would have been the same whether or not her or her sister were driving it, as they are just girls, which seems a bit infantilizing of two grown-ass women, but my GF has agreed to split the cost with me moving forward. In my mind, the money doesn't matter as much as admitting responsibility, so I am okay with the resolution of this. Honestly, most of the time I realize in a relationship, you just have to ensure you are communicating your needs and feelings effectively. Nothing we had discussed was unreasonable, and I do recall I did choose this girl for a reason, smiley face. Stories number 42. Entitled Coworker thinks I stole her promotion because I didn't tell her about the opening. About 3 months ago, a position opened up at work for a team lead role. It wasn't heavily advertised, but it was listed on our internal job board. I applied, interviewed, and got it. Yay, right? Nope. A coworker, let's call her Megan, cornered me in the break room and accused me of stealing the role from her. Her exact words: "You knew I wanted that job. Why didn't you tell me it was open?" I reminded her it was posted like everything else and she has access to the board. Her response: "Yeah, but you're on it more. It would have been nice if you told me. That's just common courtesy." Excuse me? Since when am I the HR fairy? She then said I had girl boss energy and that I manipulated leadership to get ahead of her. What I actually did was check the damn job board and have relevant experience. She's now refusing to help me with transition work, saying it's my problem now. Entitled and Petty. Stories number 43. My girlfriend told me I'm not tall enough to be this demanding. My friend ran into her at some restaurant, saw her dining with some guy and they even kissed later. I confronted her and she admitted to cheating, but was expecting me to forgive her. I refused to, and told her that we're breaking up. To that, she got insanely angry and told me that I'll die alone and no woman will ever want me, eventually said that I'm not tall enough to be this demanding. I was mocked for my height my entire life. I'm 5 feet 4 inches, I was bullied for it at school, made fun of by coworkers, even strangers on the street. I thought she didn't care about it and was one of the few people who wouldn't use that against me, but I was wrong. I'm devastated. She literally cheated on me and claimed that I don't even have the right to break up with her for it cause I'm short. Maybe I don't. Maybe I should just settle with what I have cause no one will ever like me. She's the only woman who was ever into me. Stories number 44. Aita for finally snapping at my husband's mom in front of his whole family. So here's what happened. We went over to his uncle's house last weekend. Normal family gathering, nothing fancy. I wasn't even in the mood to go, but he insisted. Said we couldn't keep skipping things or it would look bad. Whatever. I went. Barely 10 minutes in, I hear his mom talking to his cousins in the kitchen. She wasn't whispering. Like, at all. Loud enough for me to hear from the hallway. Stuff like, she's lazy, doesn't even take care of the house. I don't know what my son saw in her. If I were him, I'd come back home. Like what? I cook. I clean. I take care of her grandkid. I've kept my mouth shut every time she made her little side comments. Every time she rearranged my cabinets or folded our laundry like it wasn't done right. Every single time. And now she's out here talking crap about me. Lying, even. In front of the rest of the family. I walked into that kitchen, heart pounding. And I just said it. Please stop talking about me like that. You're always making stuff up and I'm done staying quiet. That's all. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. But man, you'd think I flipped the damn table. She froze. Looked shocked. Everyone else just went silent. My husband just stared at his P8 like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Then she starts crying. Saying I embarrassed her. That I disrespected her in front of the family. That I ruined the night. And suddenly I'm the bad guy. He didn't say a word on the way home. Not one. I asked if he was okay and he just said, you didn't have to do that. I didn't have to. Are you serious? I've been biting my tongue for months. She's made me feel small, like I don't belong. I've tried to win her over. I've been nothing but respectful. And he knows it. But now he's mad at me. So yeah. I don't know. Was I wrong for finally calling her out? Stories number 45. Aita for asking my boyfriend to stop calling my job easy. I work as a kindergarten teacher, and my boyfriend constantly refers to my job as easy or cute babysitting. At first, I laughed it off, but it's starting to really bother me. I spend hours outside of school planning lessons, grading, managing parent emails, and dealing with actual meltdowns on a daily basis. Last week, after I came home exhausted and told him about a kid who bit another kid and then threw up on me, he laughed and said, "Wow, must be tough coloring all day." I told him I don't appreciate how he keeps belittling my work, and he got defensive, saying I'm too sensitive and that he's just joking. I asked him to stop, but now he just rolls his eyes or says, "Okay, teacher lady," in this condescending tone. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if I should be more chill about it, but it honestly feels super dismissive. It makes me feel like he doesn't respect what I do at all. Aita for asking him to stop. Stories number 46. Aitj for leaving my BF after he told me he was poly. I have nothing against people that are poly, it's just that it's not for me. I, 24, and my ex-BF, 26, have been dating for about 3 months. Everything felt good, he was attentive, funny, and we had great conversations. I thought things were moving towards something real. We'd already had a few discussions about values and plans. Nothing super deep yet, but enough to think we were on the same page. Then one night, he casually brought up that he's poly. Like it was just another fun fact about him. He said he'd been seeing someone else too, and figured now was a good time to be fully open. I was shocked. I asked why he hadn't told me sooner, and he said he didn't want to scare me off too early, but he also assumed I'd be fine with it eventually. I told him that I'm not wired that way and I want a monogamous relationship. He said I was overreacting and being close-minded. I told him I wasn't judging how he lives his life, but that's not what I want in a relationship. So I walked away. Now some mutual friends are saying I was harsh for leaving him over one detail and that I should have been more open. Was I wrong for walking away? Stories number 47. Woman wants my walking stick. I'm disabled, so whenever I leave the house, I usually bring my cane with me. It helps me deal with the pain and also keeps me steady on my feet when I walk. Last week was my sister's birthday. She wanted to spend it at Chuck E. Cheese, so we drove out and let her go wild for a few hours. I mostly sat at the table keeping an eye on our things while she ran around, but at one point I got up to go to the bathroom. On my way back to the table, a woman and her child stepped in front of me before I could sit down. We were set up directly across from the soda fountain, so I thought maybe they were waiting for their turn to use it, but the mom gives me a wide grin, points at my cane, and says, "Hi there. Can my daughter try out your walking stick?" I didn't really know how to respond at first. I just kind of paused, and probably made a face because she looked insulted, before I said, "No." She stared at me blankly and told me, "Are you serious?" I promised her that she could. "Why?" The woman rolled her eyes and mumbled something about me being rude as she dragged her kid away. I know this isn't the most interesting story, but this is still one of the stupidest encounters I've ever had. I'm only in my mid-20s, so I'm used to people giving me weird looks when they notice my cane, but they typically don't bring it up, and obviously never ask to use it. Who does that? What has to go through your mind to think that's okay to do? Stories number 48. Aita for not telling my mom I'm joining the army until the day I leave. I, 20M, made the decision to enlist in the army about 6 months ago. I didn't tell anyone in my family, not even my mom. I kept it to myself, talked it through with a few close friends, and quietly went through the process with the recruiter, physicals, paperwork, and all that. My ship-out date is in September. I'm planning to tell my mom the morning I leave. Bags packed, contract signed, everything already set in motion. And I already know what most people would say, "That's your mom, she deserves to know." And I get that. But my relationship with her is tough to explain. She's always been extremely emotional and controlling. Like, the kind of mom who cried when I got my driver's license because it meant I didn't need her anymore. She worries about everything, and her way of handling things is to guilt trip and panic. When I brought up the military last year just as an idea, she completely shut it down, crying, telling me I was trying to die, saying I'd ruin her life. So I dropped it and never brought it up again, but I never stopped thinking about it. I've been lost since graduating high school. I don't want to waste years doing nothing, and the army feels like the right step. I need discipline, purpose, something that pushes me. I know deep down that if I told her months ago, she would have done everything in her power to stop me, and I probably would have let her. She's my mom. I care about her. But I also know I have to make my own decisions now. So, I decided I'll wake her up early the morning I leave, tell her face to face that I've enlisted and that I'm heading out. It's not meant to be cold. It's just the only way I can do it without backing down. Some friends say I'm doing the right thing for myself. Others say I'm being a coward for not facing it sooner. I don't know. Aita for waiting until the day I leave to tell my mom I joined the army. Stories number 49. Husband's coworker spies on us to verify he's sick. Hubby was very sick. Had to take him to the ER after he passed out from dehydration from an intestinal bug he'd been dealing with for a few days. On the way he calls his job to let them know. We park in the ER garage and get a little ticket that the ER validates for you. He's brought back, immediately given fluids and meds, taken back for a CT scan, etc. We find out later a coworker who was pissy she was going to be short-handed took it upon herself to somehow find our address and later drive over to our apartment to check to see if hubby is really sick. She sees our upstairs neighbor walking who vaguely resembles my hubby. Both 6 feet 3 inches, light brown hair, similar builds. He's 15 years younger though and has his infant with him. Our kids are in their late 20s, early 30s. She goes back to work and tells boss that we lied about being sick as she saw him at, insert time, walking around outside perfectly fine. The next morning the boss calls hubby and lets him know he's going to be written up for calling out, under false pretense, and causing staffing issues. After pressing him for info he tells us about what the coworker did. Hubby tells boss that firstly, we have proof we were in the ER at the time coworker said she saw him, and secondly that he's filing an HR complaint on both the coworker and the manager as there isn't any rule about why anyone can call out, and why the hell is coworker at our house spying on us. In our state MGT isn't allowed to inquire about your health, nor are they allowed to let you tell them about your health issues. Manager starts getting defensive and states if we can give him proof then he'll excuse it. Hubby says you'll get your proof and hangs up. He immediately calls HR and lets them know what happened, and we provide them the time-stamped parking ticket and part of the discharge paperwork from the ER showing what time we arrived and left. The next week an email is sent out notifying all employees and MGT about the law concerning sick time. And also a separate notification that employees are not to be following, spying on or otherwise contacting other employees outside of the office regarding work, time off, etc. Hubby was called into a meeting with the manager, the department head and the female employee. The manager and the employee were both absolutely roasted by the department head. The only thing the employee had to say was that the person she saw looked like my hubby and she was just angry about the situation. And the MGR's excuse was that the female employee had been there a long time so he trusted her when she told him. When asked how she got our address, come to find out manager lets her in his computer regularly and she has been privy to other employees' private info for some time. Department head said hubby was free to go with his profound apologies. We found out later employee was fired and manager was demoted and moved to a different department. Stories number 50. Aita for saying my daughter is not obligated to invite her stepbrother to her birthday trip. I, 42F, have a daughter, Ava, 15F, from a previous relationship. My husband, 45M, has a son, Trey, 16M. They've lived together since they were little but have never been close. Trey is loud, always making jokes at Ava's expense. She doesn't hate him, just finds him exhausting. Ava asked for a birthday weekend at the lake with 3 friends. Small group. No boys. No drama. When Trey found out, he sulked and asked why he wasn't invited. My husband asked if I could talk to Ava about including him. I asked Ava and she was very clear, I don't want him there. I want to relax, not be annoyed the whole time. I told my husband I wasn't going to force her. He got mad and said I was encouraging division in the family and treating Trey like an outsider. But Ava is allowed to have boundaries, right? I wouldn't force her to invite a classmate she didn't vibe with. Why should it be different just because they live under the same roof? Stories number 51. Entitled neighbor tried to claim my backyard tree was community property. So my neighbor shows up at my door the other day asking if I could trim our tree because it was dropping leaves in his yard. Thing is, the tree is clearly in my backyard, planted like 5 feet from my house. I told him I'd get around to it when I could, but then he hits me with, well, technically it's community property since the branches hang over the fence. He starts telling me how the neighborhood shares nature, and how he's within his rights to trim his side whenever he wants. I told him go ahead and trim what's on his side of the fence if he really wants, but don't touch the trunk or cross into my yard. 2 days later I catch him in my yard with a saw. No knock, no heads up. Just in there like it's his weekend project. I called him out, told him to leave, and now he's acting like I'm the unreasonable one. Anyone else dealt with something like this? I didn't think community tree was even a thing unless we lived in a park.